set, go.
Horizon lights up in the palm of my hands. I reach out to grab the edge. Was it a reaction to the rainfall that made the lights reflect overhead? Whisper something sweet over the city to counter the bitter air. I will be listening for you. The chains were too hard to bear. I believe there's a place where I belong, and you do too. It's not far away. If only it were true. I believe that the waves won't take me down when I'm not alone. I cannot come back this time. Now that I've been long gone, have you missed me at all? The road home shatters and I feel the pressure of direction taking over me. If I'm moving through space in an endless
The time of the Summer Queens is past. The time of the Star Queens has not yet come. Against the coming churn storm, there can only be a Storm Queen. And yet, they come with technology and terror, with shields and armor, blades and bows, magic arcane and unholy, with the power of lightning and even of stars to take my dragon. When the churn swallows their homes, then they will kneel!
Hello ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome to the Vainglory show matches from Southeast Asia. My name is Minimata and alongside me I've got iRequested Duel.
Hello, and we're back after a bit of a break, but some more 5v5 action as always, good and tasty for you right here on the Tesseract stream. And yeah, it's really good to be back. How you doing, Minnie?
I'm good. I'm hoping everyone enjoyed their Chinese New Year celebrations. Why we weren't streaming last week, but back at it once again. And we want to go through iRequested Duel. We want to go through the schedule for today.
Well, today we do have Renegades going up against Bren Esports first, and then it will be Impunity going up against the new newbies, and then for the final match of the day, it will be Boom Esports going up against Apple Esports. So, some close matchups I'm expecting today, especially I really think our first match we're seeing here, Bren Esports should be able to put up a fight against Renegades, and I'm looking forward to see what newbies have to bring to the table, and for our final match of the day, well, we'll see which esports team is the best.
Yeah, Bren might say it's them, but they're not playing against another esports team. But that is a bold prediction I think you had before the stream. You think it's going to be 2-1 in the first game of the day. Obviously, you think Renegades probably going to take the victory, but most people, including myself, think Renegades going to hit that 2-0. So you've really got a lot of faith in Bren Esports to come up with a strong performance today.
Well, I think Bren Esports, in terms of what they showed in the 3v3 old VG8 tournaments, that we saw they were really an up-and-coming team, and a lot of the time they were able to keep up mechanically to teams like Renegades and Impunity, and I think if they're able to translate that into the current meta of 5v5, as long as they've had enough time to practice with getting the rotations down, map control, and making sure that it really is making sure your lanes don't get pushed and objectives taken behind you, because map control is so important. It opens up to the bigger late game objectives such as Ghostwing and Blackclaw, which can really turn the game around.
Yeah, I definitely think, as we've always said, lane control is that important. And I think we're probably going to be seeing a bit more early aggression, because quite often it's been at level 1 into level 2, it's just been take your own buff camps and then everyone goes to their lanes and the top laner tries to not get ganked. And that's pretty much been it. There hasn't been an awful lot of level 1, just everyone go to their weapon buff and try and steal it away. It's a very risky play to try and invade, because you can obviously be counter-invaded and lose more. But if you get that first blood, perhaps you have some vision so you know that they're not going into your jungle. Early invades can go really well if you try and go maybe as 4 or as 5 to one of the enemy camps.
Yeah, I've seen that strategy really tends to be the one that works the most. Rather than you can play it risky. Usually, when the general flow of people coming out of the base goes, they're all going to rotate to their lanes, and you might have wherever the jungler goes, what side of the jungle, then say top and mid might rotate into that point, and then you have free. But sometimes it's just that extra step of putting one more person there can really help make the invade successful if you decide to go for that early aggression.
Yeah, it's also knowing when the camps are going to respawn. So obviously, first camp's 55 seconds. Then after that, it's around 3 minutes 30. And so it's just knowing when the enemy's taken their camps, so you get there when it's going to respawn. So if you can do that, you're going to get the camp and you're going to have a nice gold lead in your favour. And so looking at the rosters for both of the teams, Renegades, we're not going to be looking at the rosters. We're just going to be going into the picking phase. I got absolutely baited by whoever's in charge of the party. Not going to call any names out, but that means we're close into the game. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of picks we're going to be coming through.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see whether these teams have decided on what is more or less a meta in Southeast Asia for 5v5. I can definitely see a lot of Koshka Alpha being prioritized. I think that will be quite a good pick, if not maybe Bruce's. Like Cruel and Rona, they kind of have their different strengths there, where Cruel is really able to go in and single target, but is still able to keep his own health up, where Rona goes in and she does AoE, but keeps her health up. And I think in their own ways have their very similar kits, but different playstyles in a sense.
Yeah, they're also both very good at securing last hits on those jungle camps. Squall, if he gets there first, is going to secure it pretty much guaranteed. And Rona, even if she gets there late, can use that foe splitter, pop it, and gonna do a massive amount of burst damage. I'm definitely expecting to see, if we see a Rona, it's going to be Solar Blade into Tornado Trigger, Tyrant's Monocle. I don't think the Serpent's Mask Breaking Point Rona would be played by anyone, because it doesn't deal anywhere near as much damage. And yes, you get a bit of sustain, but if you want sustain, you can build a Poison Shiv on Rona, but you already have Mortal Wounds with your B anyway, so I don't think that's necessarily worth it on Rona. They should be just going damage.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what picks come through, as well as what builds, as you say, can really make a difference into that late game and how they scale in that factor. Do you think we'll see any Gwen coming through? Gwen seems to be a hero that's had a lot of, I guess, attention to her with recent updates.
Yep, I think Tezzaboy might be playing Gwen. Just a wild guess that I'm going to throw out there. But we are loading into Sovereign's Rise for the first game of the day. We'll be handing it over to our casters. Take it away.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our game number 1 in this best of 2 for another Vainglory action here. My name is Astra, and of course, here with me now is...
Yes, sirree, it's Riku. Super duper excited to cast this as, again, Renegades. After a long break, they're still currently undefeated, so I'm really excited what kind of adjustments Bren Esports has for this matchup.
Yeah, Hell's City, and it seems like composition-wise, it's going to be Koshka once again for Renegades. I don't think, like, if ever we do have a banning system already or if there's no banning system yet, more so than not, Renegades would always pick Koshka right now because she's just that strong, and Chingy makes her seem even stronger.
Exactly, and at this point, just as Minimiter has mentioned during the analysis phase, the pre-game show, is that they really want to just try and defend their buffs at this point. Nothing too aggressive so far, and just clear the buffs, go to the lanes. And at this point, Bren Esports, from their previous games, they seem to be the team that really wants to play the aggression during the early phases of the game, but due to their composition, I feel like they might have to take their time, ramp it up a little bit, and this time around, it's Renegades that has that potential to be the person, or the team rather, that pushes on with their early game lead.
Neon's gonna get caught out in the bottom lane, and because of that damage, Aeon's gonna just go aggressive, not gonna pop him out, as Neon does use, I believe, that flask of him to heal up, as well as getting the last hit on the healing treant, so he should be fine and dandy. But as you can see, this is the double man rotation that's really aggressive coming out from Renegades.
That is one of the weaknesses for having a Gromp Jaw top. It's really difficult, especially if you get jumped upon, and Spaghetti will finish this off, getting the revenge kill. Wayam will try to back away.
This might be a 2-kill for Renegades, but it's just going to be the revenge. Spaghetti having that, river buff still rotated quite quickly into the top lane, and they kind of ported it out in the open, so it was kind of, you know, it's kind of like shown that it's gonna be quite an easy punish for Spaghetti to do there in the top lane.
Exactly. Fast rotations again from Renegades. They do have the power, they do have the early game damage to punish these overextensions. I mean, Brain Esports had the right idea. They saw 2 members down at bot. Okay, let's try to make a pick, make it even. And at that point, Spaghetti was already 1 step, 2 steps ahead of them and managed to clean up, get the revenge kill. Noincy super low at this point. Gotta respect the range of Tezaboy here on this Gwen, but I feel like it's gonna be, uh-oh, there's the Koshka.
He's gonna get leaped in through. He's gonna be able to reset himself, and Pablo Escobar is gonna be holding his hand into the bottom lane. Gives him a little bit of a vanguard, and Aeon might be just waiting for maybe the healing Treant to come back online. Scout Cam will spot out Pablo right here, but I don't think this Arden can do anything at all. He's gonna rotate back into the mid, give more support to Sync 1, or maybe just rotate to catch up SNK and Spaghetti, who are going for a very aggressive rotation here, really putting Brent to the test to keep their jungle for themselves. And after that bout into the top lane, Uni has been farming quite alright by himself. SNK though, a bit too overextended, and he will get punished. Dashes away by Spaghetti, but Wayam wants some blood. He's going quite aggressive. Spaghetti activates his own flash just to get that heal up as well as a shield, but this might be a very bad situation for him. Thank goodness enough though that Uni will be here to hold his hand, giving him some support. Charges onto Wayam. Wayam dashes away. Does Uni have a bit more mobility in himself to get that final blow? Looks like that's going to be a no, and Uni just backs off.
Great play there. I feel like they managed to get what they can. They immediately punished the overextension in the jungle of Brent Esports here. Managed to eliminate the Koshka there. And it was very rewarding. At least they weren't able to manage to falter from that aggression and still managed to... they got scared off by Uni at that point. But then again, at least they managed to even out the odds in terms of early game aggression. With the Reza early game damage, I feel like RNG Renegades should really be careful. And at this point, again, Renegades has a very poke heavy composition where they could immediately try to put the laners low enough for Koshka to do the dive. So I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of defensive scout cams. And look at this rotation from Renegades.
3-man rotation. That tier 1 turret in the bottom lane is going to take quite a bit of damage here with this Captain Wave already, and Neon C, he's not really the best defender here. He does have some good single target damage, but at the end of the day, he's got to be able to clear them out quickly. Does put quite a bit there, and as you can see, Mr. Jim's going to be able to buy up his first Aura Blade, so he's going to be spiking a little bit in terms of damage. Pablo Escobar will get caught out here, and 4-man rotation from RNG, really looking to be aggressive, but at the same time, mid lane wise, Sync 1 and Wayam might have wanted to do some damage here, but rotations from RNG will just be true. Spaghetti, takes a bit of damage from that chakram, but he should be alright.
Really good placement of scout cams from Bren Esports. They're really not threatened at all with this aggressive renegade rotations whenever they want to try to make a pick whatsoever. They're really standing their ground. We want to make this wave push and take advantage of how lacking in terms of defense at the mid side of the map. But again, there's a fight here at the bot side.
I mean, that's the reason why also Bren are surviving right now, because the composition that they made kind of thrives on trying to survive as much as possible. But I mean, Renegades, they got the damage. They have the Gwen who spikes quite early into the game, and you can see her damage was already spiking up. And Aeon, I think he just needs that one single item for him to, you know, be able to burst down as the Koshka. I think that is the Aftershock, yeah. But now Neon should be reset here once again to the bottom lane. Good smash onto Aeon. But still, Tezaboy will try to put the damage onto that turret, putting it out 40%. But at the opposite side of the map, there will be a kill by Spaghetti onto Wayam. So that's going to be a catch-off for, well, the Varya. Also one of Spaghetti's new favorite heroes, aside from the Celeste.
Exactly. I'm very impressed by Renegades. They're practically everywhere. And Ren Esports is trying their best to just minimize the damage as much as they can, even though they just try to put on the defensive movements just to, again, minimize the damage, the casualties. It's just not gonna happen because Renegades, because of their map presence, map awareness, they just know where to cut off their exits, and this just puts so much pressure onto Neon C at the bot lane as well. So that's mission accomplished already for Tezaboy, and Neon C super low at this point.
SNK could be in a bad spot, doesn't have the Verse of Judgment yet, so he's gonna get bombarded. Uni, the one-man army, is he really gonna go for it? Does have the ultimate to be able to maybe take someone in? Stuffed, yeah, but looks like no. Are they gonna go aggressive on him and dive? Mr. Jim does have the Sora Blade. They're going for it. They're aggressive, and that's gonna be a kill onto Uni. One more shot. He's gonna be able to get away. Oh, he dashes in the nick of time. Too bad, so sad for Bren, but they do get the turret, claiming another objective in the map for themselves. So they at least get that one.
One thing that Bren Esports I remembered from the past games is that they tend to get very aggressive, greedy for kills, and it seems that, you know, they've learned from the previous games and they're just like, okay, we've already gotten an objective, we pushed the Gromjaw away, it's fine, we can fight another day. But Weya is so close to dying at this point. He's getting pushed out of the jungle. Aeon222 is just a bully at this point on this Koshka.
Level 7 on the Koshka, and Wayam hasn't even breached his level 6. Not really what you wanted to see for the Reza. Grenada falter behind here against Aeon, and Aeon, because of the damage that he has, he can actually easily last hit all of the camps there as they try to go for the counter jungle. SNK, he's actually fine, you know, being bombarded here. Gold Oak is going to be quite a bit of an objective. 4 people from Bren are chasing them down. This is going to give time for Uni to actually claim the top lane, and look at that rotation as well. Spaghetti and the other members of RNG able to play around Bren, and Aeon just dives in, gets smashed by the anvil, and they gotta back off.
Look at that rotation. From scaring away from the jungle, they take a turret, and because of how much pressure they're applying at the top side of the map, while the wave is pushing in their favor at bot side, Neon C was forced to shove that wave in response to that and not join the fight. They're lacking that firepower so that to stop Renegade's super aggressive, you know, rotations, and Sync 1 might just try to run away here as Pablo Escobar sacrifices himself just to lay down the gauntlet to save his teammates' life rather.
And with that, it's gonna open up this Ghost Wing for the taking. Kind of sad though, you gotta give his life, but you know, it always does the captain's job, or rather the support's job, to be that one true martyr. In any case, yeah. Ghostwing will be captured without too much contention from Bren Esports here. Spaghetti stacking up that shield. SNK gonna try to help him finalize the kill onto the crystal tree, and oh my goodness, Wayam is in a world of hurt. Spaghetti just goes in with a dash, and he doesn't even care. Aces High will connect onto Pablo Escobar. It's gonna be a second pick off here for the side of Renegades. SNK gonna be the front line as Bren Esports try to just dip in, dip out of the fight, but they are taking too much damage from the poke of Renegades. Mr. Jim, though, he does have the Glimmer Shot, but it's not really going to be able to do massive amount of damage. But I could be wrong here. SNK, though, sidesteps Neon's dash, and he will be able to get away scot-free from that one.
That's one of the amazing things about Vainglory 5V5. After you take the Ghost Wing, you can, even though you're damaged, you still get that really good buff to prepare yourself from another fight. Not only that, Ghost Wing is close to a river shop, so that means you could load up your items and prepare yourself for the next fight. You don't have to go home. You can immediately take action and rotate, and that's why, you know, sometimes Bren Esports might have a hard time in finding the right fights. Where are we prepared for this? They obviously have loaded up their items, upgraded up their items, but now with their composition, they're slowly ramping up. The poke is real, especially coming from the Idris, and Spaghetti, super brave at this point, leading the front lines.
He doesn't even care anymore. He's going to be able to burst down Wayam by himself, and Adverse of Judgment will just block everybody through. Spaghetti has so much shield, and they just baited in Bren Esports to a world of hurt. Spaghetti should go down, but the damage is going to be real, and he still gets the Idris with the help of SNK. Although, aside from that, bottom side of the map, Tezaboy and Aeon, I believe, was able to get Neon C, and that's going to open up the possibility of taking down this turret, as well as maybe the armory.
Just according to plan for Renegades, 2 members invested to distracting a huge chunk of resources from Bren Esports just to make sure that they take an objective on the other side of the map. No response from Bren Esports, as again, they were busy at the mid lane dealing with a problematic Spaghetti with SNK on the Adagio. So they're able to keep it up, keep them busy, and at this point, Bren Esports has to shove the wave now. They have to play defense at this point. They're really having a hard time catching up with the aggressive rotations coming from Renegades, and they're confident. They definitely know where to invest, you know, certain players just so that they can take things away from Bren Esports.
Yeah, the other thing that kind of noticed here is that Bren Esports went for heroes that I feel like kind of spike up after 2 items, not just the one. Whereas Renegades, they can actually deal the damage already once they hit that 1 item spike for themselves, such as the Koshka, and I feel to a certain extent the Gwen, which kind of makes it difficult for Bren because since they're already behind, they have to keep the farm up. But Renegades has been pretty adamant at controlling the jungle, not allowing, you know, Bren Esports to go for the farm here, and now because of that, Bren are having a difficult time exchanging blows with them because they're lacking the damage. They have the damage though, but it's not enough to be able to get that 1 up against RNG. There's going to be a fight right here. Neon's is going to be starting in onto the battle versus Judgment just to counter out the gauntlet from the Arden, and they're trying to escape for their lives, but Spaghetti, oh my goodness, the burst on this guy is just immense. Uni going to coming in from behind, still has his ultimate, he can stuff someone in, but this is just actually a pretty good engagement coming out from Bren Esports, and they get the win just from Pablo Escobar's start with the gauntlet.
Wow, they really believed in Neon C to stall and bait that out, and not only did they win the team fight, they also managed to take a turret at the bot side of the map, even ghosting as well, as there are 2 members already hitting that objective at this point, and Gwen is the only closest member that could try and contest. I mean, it's a very risky play if you want to try to make a steal, but you're risking your life. They decide to not take it. 1 shot, 1 kill is just going to be for the assist, and that's a good initiation and trust on the damage at this point of the game.
That's true. Although at the end of the day, if you still check the gold advantage, it's already 4,000, 5,000 for RNG here, or Renegades rather. So they still have the item advantage. But Bren, since they got that Ghost Wing, they have the possibility to last longer in the fights. Gauntlet should be up back again for the Arden. Actually, no, 50 seconds. This might be an opening for RNG to go with. There is the Kestrel coming from the sides, but Spaghetti does so much AoE damage. They gotta be careful though, because there's still a lot of members of Bren that have so much chunk in their trunk. Oh my goodness, look at that! Neon C is just behemothing into the members of RNG. Nobody can deal with him. He's just too damn tanky, and with this build, with the Alpha having the Serpent's Mask, he's gonna be able to sustain himself. Activates the Prime Directive to go for the dash, but it's not going to connect, so they at least get away. But that's 3 kills for Bren Esports.
3 kills on Bren Esports, plus a turret as well, so good control, good, you know, taking advantage of each clash that they win. So at this point, you know, Renegades really has to think and step back a little bit, try to pick the fights that try to think about their positioning in terms of these team fights, because obviously it's really problematic at this point that, you know, a lot of the Bren Esports lineup have already ramped up in terms of damage and can be quite overwhelming. Plus they had the Ghost Wing buff on their side when that fight happened, so sieging could get a little bit tricky despite, you know, they're in the lead in terms of gold earlier, so they might get caught up here. Let's see what plan do they have as Bren Esports. Their strategy at this point is just to just let Renegades start the fight and then just try to do a counter attack, but they might play around this Black Claw in terms of how they're gonna take advantage of the situation and start a fight. So they're gonna be laying down the vision flares here and there, but we'll see.
They're gonna go for the fight once again. Activates the gauntlet, and Uni's gonna be trapped straight inside. But he actually tries to make it something happen. But Neon C just dives into their face, puts quite a bit of damage, and Renegades has to back away. Even though there are very low members here, low HP members of Bren. Well, it's still gonna be very close. What the heck was that? Wayham just got caught out in the open. This makes it into a 4v4. Makes it really good right now for Renegades to make something happen. Neon C has to dive right in, but he's taken so much damage. He can't really do too much right now. Activates the Prime Directive and actually charges right in, but SNK with the perfect zone out activates the Verse of Judgment, but is it gonna be enough as Black Claw joins in onto the fight? Sync 1 has the damage. Ooh, 1 shot, 1 kill onto the back of SNK. Tesla Boy going in aggressive with the Grace. Auto attack right there. And here comes Spaghetti. 2v2, mano y mano. Neon does not have his trait anymore. He will not respawn, and he goes down in perfect timing. Uni comes back, and that's going to be Renegades winning the fight and even taking maybe this Black Claw.
I honestly thought Brent Esports could have won that. I mean, everybody was pretty much scared of the termination protocol when the Alpha dashed in. But then at that point, you know, the pokes are very heavy already on the side of Renegades, and they play that really well. They decided to not dive all in and just try to reposition and try their best to hit the pokes before they overcommit to the fight. And they play that so well. Varia's ultimate did so well on that fight. So much damage, plus the Burst of Judgment coming from Adagio really protected the Varia there. Really protected Spaghetti, so it worked out in their favor after a while when all the key members just survived and they could just literally clean up, get this Black Claw for themselves, and now they're back in a position where they can be aggressive. So at this point, Aces High wasn't able to hit anybody, but the pokes are still real.
Pokes are still real indeed, as Black Claw has done his deed, able to actually be the front line that Renegades needed to break through the mid lane of Bren Esports. What's also kind of curious here is that both of these teams have compositions that have good, I would say, that have like somewhat ultimate dependent engagements, and Renegades, I felt like on that previous clash near the Black Claw area, kind of played it perfectly because they kind of baited in the gauntlet early. Uni did go down, but they didn't overcommit to the fight, spacing as much as they can, trying to dip in and feel out what was good for them. And then once they felt that it was already good, SNK was fine sacrificing himself, Burst of Judgment, dealt the damage, waited for Neon C to reboot, and then just went back in.
I completely agree with you there, Asurai. So they played that fight really well, and they have reaped what they saw. They got the Black Claw already. So at this point, Bren Esports has to play the defensive again, has to rethink their strategy. I mean, it already worked out pretty well for themselves to try to do the counter reactive play, but at this point, with Renegades dealing so much more damage, and Varia, a really huge threat alongside with the Gwen. Uh-oh, they might caught Mr. Jim here.
Might have caught Mr. Jim indeed. Gotta be careful for that one, because there's also that point wherein if the fight ensues and Uni finds a target, even though he doesn't if he survives, he can get a stuff, making it into a 5v4 situation for a couple of seconds, and that might just be enough for Renegades here to close out the match, because I think that if ever like they stuff maybe an Arden, that's gonna leave every single other member of Bren open for an initiation. And Spaghetti, my goodness, the balls in this man, the meatballs rather, is gonna be able to dash away through the gauntlet. Hallelujah! And SNK is gonna get stunned in, but look at this from downtown, gonna be Mr. Jim, but Spaghetti does survive for the meantime with the help from Aeon, although they do lose their member. That's gonna be a 1-for-2 exchange, as Bren will go for the charge, looking for more engagements here. Aeon as well as Tezaboy trying to run away. Prime Directive connects onto Neon. Will he get reboot? Yes, he will, but the damage from Tezaboy as well as Neon might have, or Aeon might be enough, but they gotta be careful because Uni was split pushing onto the top lane. Nice reflex block onto the Aces High there, and Uni just going in, chomping aggressively, and he will be able to shut it down, or rather shut down Neon with the help of this Grumpjaw.
I was about to say they had a lot of chase potential in terms of cleanup whenever Renegades decide to just retreat, but at that point, they were already kind of confused in terms of, are we going to still pursue this? Do we back away? Someone's already split pushing. Never mind, we already overcommitted. Might as well pursue this chase instead. But they lost a lot because of that, and Grumpjaw manages to threaten that aggression, and because of that, they were forced to back away. A good Vanguard just to let the Alpha live at that point, but because of there's so many objectives, there's an objective rather on the map, which is the Black Claw, so they're forced to try and contest this, as Pablo Escobar already spots this out.
He will be able to spot this out indeed, but what can he do as he gets devoured by Uni? Let's go! It's gonna be a buffet for this Grumpjaw, and Aeon, my goodness, he loses a little bit of his mind, charges in with all that he had, but he's got to be careful because that's still a lot of damage from Bren.
And the death timers are very unforgiving at this point of the game. So Bren Esports forced to do the defensive mode, defensive sequence, and Black Claw is just dealing a lot of damage to the structures. Plus, Varia's ultimate is going to help in terms of pushing Bren Esports away, but look at that, they're dealing so much damage as well.
with the help from the Halcyon missiles. Indeed. Oh, Uni goes in with the dive, takes out the Kestrel, and Sync 1. He was going for that crystal power build on the Idris. Oh, wait, the pop, though. It's going to be immense. Boom! Shakalaka onto Tezza Boy, but he still survives with a sliver of HP, even connects. The ace is high. Tezza Boy is on a rampage, ladies and gentlemen, as the Black Claw goes in wild onto the Vein Crystal, and that's going to be GG WP for game number 1.
Man, that was an amazing fight. There was a point that Bren Esports could have won the game, but then Renegades just immediately got control, got back into their strong footing, and it was just too late to turn it around.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it just felt like the composition that Bren made had good damage, but the problem was they can never really get off that damage because there was so much spacing coming out from them. Like, maybe the one who can really have dealt it was the Kestrel, but stuck somewhere in between was the Idris, who going for that crystal power build had, you know, he had that sustained build, but then it just felt like a little bit too iffy. Yeah.
Alright, so let's head on to our analysts to break it down for our first game. Mini and Iroquesta Duel, take it away.
Thank you, Azurai and Riku. And that was a really close game. That was so much closer than what we've seen from playing against Renegades before. Iroquesta, what have you got to say?
Well, as I said, I did think Bren Esports would be able to put up a good fight, and that's what I really think happened there. That when it came to the early game, we saw Renegades just being able to outmaneuver them. A lot of knowing where to push at the right time, as Riku said, knowing where to put your resources in order to make Bren Esports react to that, but meanwhile you're actually going to take something behind their back. We saw a lot of that with Koshka Adagio early game invading Bren Esports jungle, and that led to 4 members on Bren Esports having to rotate down to deal with that. Off the back of that, they got the mid turret, I believe the first Ghost Wing, and then into mid game we saw similar strategies where they were able to take away a tier 3 bottom turret. But as soon as those team fights broke out, you rarely saw Bren Esports, as I mentioned, were able to keep up mechanically, and they really put up some good fights there, almost taking it back. It just came down to what Asurai said, and I totally agreed with, was ultimate dependent engagements, such as going off the gauntlet for the side of Bren Esports was really important. And another big ultimate was Alpha, if they could get in there, because when Asurai was talking about which heroes were really putting out the damage for Bren, it was kind of reliant on that Kestrel, Alpha, and Idris. Whereas you look at a team like Renegades, the comp they had, and they just had so much burst, so much poke everywhere, and I guess it, in the end, was overwhelming. As I mentioned, the Gwen pick, I said I would be expecting Gwen in this match, and Tezzaboy certainly showed us an amazing performance on that, picking himself up a quadra kill and just so much burst damage.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the Gauntlet was the main cooldown that they needed, and Alpha didn't actually have to use her ultimate. She was kind of just there as when she was rebooting. It's so hard to kill her with a Vanguard that she was just there as a soak of damage, so the rest of her team could do the work. But as you said, the bait of Koshka stealing jungle to allow Spaghetti to get the mid turret was great from Renegades. They knew what they were doing there, and also Spaghetti was in the mid lane. He was dealing tons of damage, so he forced the members to come together to mid lane. Then they got a top and a bot turret, and so that's so much worth it for Renegades that even though Bren Esports were winning fights, they had Weapon Alpha that was dealing so much damage, but Renegades were getting the turrets. And so by the time we got to that late game, and they got the Black Claw with a great engage on the Ardent to just lock him down entirely so that he was unable to get away. But by the time they got the Black Claw, they already had top lane and bot lane and mid lane. They just had armories left, so it was impossible for Bren Esports to actually defend that Black Claw because they had no turrets to defend with.
Yeah, Bren Esports really had to try and contest that, but you could see that, I believe it's Pablo Escobar on the Arden, he went out alone to scout that out, and Meanwhile, Renegades have full vision around the back of that pit, and you could see Koshka just able to jump over, keep them busy, and then it left Grumpjaw free to come along with Stuffed and then pull him into the middle of a team where they burst him down on his own. Maybe if the rest of Bren Esports were with Baaden, they could have tried to counter-engage that with a gauntlet and single out some of the team members from the side of Renegades, but I'm sure you're very happy about that Grumpjaw play. You always like
it's not good enough.
Play that. Not good enough.
I still want to see teleport. He didn't teleport back to base. No, it was a kill, but he wasted Adagio's ult and Gwen's ult. You just use teleport boots, get them back in the base, and then it's an easy kill. But no, I don't think any pro players are actually going to do it. It's fun, but it's not very good. But thinking about the next game, Bren Esports had a really good performance in that game, and they know that they can win team fights. They don't have to worry about the mechanical skill or worry about calling out who to focus in team fights. They've got that sorted as long as they have their cooldowns. They just need to focus on those turrets. They need to focus on not overextending and not overcommitting to something not very important. So they put 4 people in the jungle to try and defend their gold oak, and in doing so left their mid turret wide open. And so maybe you have to take the loss of your jungle, try and invade their jungle, or try and push another lane. It's generally not worth reacting with lots of your teammates, because the other team is already there. They've spent the time to get there, and so in the time it takes you to travel to that part of the map, then it's just wasting time, because they're going to run away and you're going to lose a lot in another part of the map. So if Bren Esports work on that for this next game, they really have a good chance against Renegades.
Yeah, it's a similar tactic to in 3v3 whenever the enemy invades your jungle deep. Sometimes as a laner, perhaps, because you're already up there and the enemy are in your jungle, it's kind of easy for you to then rotate down to their backs if you know that they haven't taken them early. And it is a similar strategy that you can incorporate in that situation. And I do agree that Bren Esports kind of fell into that trap of putting too many resources, especially against the Koshka early game. She's got the Blood Rush perk. She's going to be able to get out of there fine. They really didn't have the CC to lock her down either. And as you said, the time and effort put into it, even if they had gotten the kill, I think a kill for objective would still be in favor of Renegades.
Yeah, every time. If you can trade your life for a turret, provided you don't then give up your own turret, that's always worth it. Even at tier 1, it was really good. And one thing that I've noticed in pretty much all of these games is that the top laner is always under pressure. A side, their top laner is going to be under pressure. The Grumpjaw's tier 1 turret went down first, and in our bot lane, but for B side it was their top. The alpha was under pressure from Gwen. It always seems to be the case, because that's where the weapon buff is. That's where the jungler's going to be trying to gank. And so that lane was always the one in trouble. And what these teams haven't been doing is they haven't been saying, okay, our top lane is in trouble, we'll just put the captain up in there and leave it, because that's kind of a waste, because they're going to be under pressure. Let's say it's a 2 versus 1. If you put your captain up, now it's a 2 versus 2 and you're still possibly losing. Instead of that, you put your captain to a different place, maybe in mid or in bot, and you give yourself an advantage in that lane, as opposed to trying to do that. So we're going to be loading into Sovereign's Rise for the second game. Casters, take it away.
And we'll take it away from you guys. Just a little bit of, an intro here. My name is Asteroid. Of course, here with me now is
Riku. And I completely agree with the points that they brought up, especially that Bren Esports is really capable of being at par in terms of these team fights. It's just that the problem is, macro-wise, they're having a hard time keeping up and putting the pressure to Renegades. It's always Renegades applying the pressure, confusing the opponents, and just forcing them into these awkward positions where they always win the objective trades. And at this point, Bren Esports will probably want to take a step back and rethink on what they have to do in certain situations when Renegades does this, because time and time again, Renegades really does know where and when to invest their resources.
Yeah, 100%. Agree with you on that as well. But maybe that's the reason why Bren went for this type of composition, wherein they have themselves a Samuel, a Blackfeather, as well as the Koshka. Because I want to break this down a little bit, that the Samuel is one of the best heroes right now to pick in Vainglory, because he just does everything. He can survive in lane. He has good damage early game. He has good damage in the late game as well. He can scale up quite quickly. Blackfeather does need some farming to ramp up, but once he does, he can go for the split push, which I think kind of fell off from Bren a while ago. So maybe that's why they went for the Blackfeather now. And they were able to steal the Koshka, as I believe this was maybe their first pick against RNG, so RNG won't be able to pick that up for Aeon or Chingy if he was playing, so that's actually pretty good. And now, I'll just see how it actually pans out. Neon, though, overextended a little bit into his lane, so he's going to get punished here. Even with the flash, he's going to get kaboomed, exploded by Teza Boy, as that Ordain was just enough to keep him in place, and no escape, no surrender, no mercy from Renegades.
Exactly, and Renegades really is the type of team that knows, with any comp that they have, they really kept the Gwen for themselves. And at this point, though, we'll see what kind of adjustments Brent Esports with this Koshka pick. I'm pretty sure they're going to use this as their very aggressive team. But look at Renegades just joining in the fight here at the bot side of the map. No questions asked, just as you mentioned. They're really 2 steps ahead every time.
Yeah, that's kind of the crazy thing here, that Renegades have shown such great rotation control against any opponents that they come up or they kind of get paired up with. And Bren, we'll just see how they actually answer this. There's only 3 kills, but again, in Vainglory, it's not really the up and up thing to do. They have, like, if you have the most amount of kills, it still doesn't matter as long as you can get the objectives and the farm that you need. Well, we'll just have to see. Sync 1 gonna be in a 1v1 against Spaghetti, who does have the Vox. So this is also the other, I think, best hero to get, because he's never gonna go out of the meta. You know, this is how it is.
Exactly. I mean, he has been adjusted on the 3.0 patch, but he's still a pretty good pick, especially in terms of consistent DPS. And at this point, SNK and the Brush as Aeon222 joins the fight. Let's see if Brent Esports can handle this.
Brent Esports might not be able to. Pablo does get stunned, but that is an Arden. Can take quite a bit of a beatdown, and they will be able to re-engage once again in a very low HP standpoint there, but he does have the heal. He's going to be able to chug himself back up, and maybe Aeon might give the last hit to SNK here, but although that's going to give him the shield, though, and just give the ambient. And bottom lane-wise, Mr. Jim might get rotated by Spaghetti, but the Spaghetti is low on HP, so he's got to be careful. Here you go, dashes away, but he is taking quite a bit of damage. There's the stacks. Uni does join in onto the fight, and Mr. Jim has to back off.
Exactly, and just hide on the brush. They're really aiming for that objective take on towards the jungle. Looks like something is going on the other side of the map as this is going on, but he secures, Mr. Jim still secures the healing trap for himself, and that's Renegades investing 2 people just so that, you know, Mr. Jim could take it away from him. And at this point, we see that Ardan is at the top side of the map. Looks like mid lane is still pretty chill at this point, but Bren Esports has bot side covered, and that's why they're still lingering around this top side, top lane. And I really think it's because they respect Aeon222's presence, especially at the mid phases of the game, and maybe that's the reason why they really want to put more pressure so that it actually chokes Teza Boy a little bit. But I'm not quite sure if they do have the right amount of power to even apply this, as a trend is actually being stolen away from them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's also the reason why they wanted to go for that top lane is just to make sure that Neon won't get dove once again, because he's already died once. Doesn't want to give any more free farm and, you know, get out-farmed by this Gwen. Although this is going to be a little bit of a tussle into the bottom lane. And here you go, Uni trying to run away, gets slowed down, pushes it back, stuffs his opponent, and Pablo does not have enough damage. This might be bad as he puts William into the embracing arms of that turret. One more auto attack. He survives with the range away from that turret, but that was a bit too scary, a bit too close for comfort, as Aeon will be rotating, spots it out. Oh, this is going to be bad. He was actually rooted by the healing tree. There's the Ordain, but Mr. Jim was able to get the healing tree for himself, as well as activating the shields. He's going to go for the roast offensive away from here and give Pablo Escobar as a ritualistic offering for him to be porting back to base. Ooh,
oh, there we go. Close. Wasn't able to cancel it. SNK. I feel like these two teams, whenever they do these aggressive ganks at the bot side or wherever in the map. They're just like baiting each other out. I thought that Uni was gonna suffer from that because Bren Esports is the type of team that can easily punish overextensions, but not Renegades. They know how to play with their strengths well, and they do the reverse baits, which they did earlier. And Neon C, super low at this point. Teza Boy has the range, bumps in to Teza at that brush. Oh my.
He exactly knew that Teza Boy, or rather that Neon C, wanted to get that healing tree, and there was so many scout camps to spot him out there, so he's not really going to be able to get that without being punished by Teza Boy. And man, that spike from Tension Bow, you just saw it, like one auto attack was enough to put him down to like what, half of its HP from full. That's something scary to look forward to, you know, from Teza.
Exactly, and that's the reason why you know, when these picks really work, because at 3.0 they buffed the Tension Bow, and at this point, look at that, another aggressive play against Pablo Escobar in the jungle. And remember, because of they already eliminated the threat at the top side of the map. Now they're at the mid lane, and we'll see how they're gonna turn this around. Nope, like no, Renegades just from one tower to another, from one hero, and they just take everything away from you.
Gotta love how Renegades goes for that rotation. It feels like it's so smooth that they got the kill in top, they got the turret in top, and once they went for the mid rotation, there was already people from Bren wanting to make some action happen, but Renegades was ready for it. And now check it out, as they get the mid, they go for the bot, and they're looking to go for that trifecta of, I would say, an opener here against Bren Esports. And it seems like Mr. Jim, he's having a little bit of cold feet here. Gotta be careful because there's 3 very aggressive members of Renegades right here. Escobar's right there holding his hand a little bit, but no Gauntlet will come out. Nom nom for you, my friend, as he will get caught by the stuff. Takes some damage from the Verse of Judgment, but has to back away, although Spaghetti joins in onto the fight, goes with auto attacks, and that Sonar as well, as the Batista ultimate pushes them out. Mr. Jim's gonna try to run away here, but he doesn't have his Rose Offensive anymore, and he is being bombarded by 3 members of Renegades. He goes down, and that's gonna be, well, 3 members of RNG still pushing for this bottom tier 1.
Wow, Renegades, again, just taking everything away. This is very textbook. And they've only invested, I don't know, 3 members just to defend from that. They actually moved Gwen to the mid side of the map because Samuel just being stubborn, staying at mid lane because they know that their priority is bot. So because of the investment of resources, Bren Esports managed to get a consolation prize, which is the top turret. But mid lane, everything else, even bot side, is going to be a little bit problematic for Bren Esports, but at least they managed to get a structure at this point. Again, in terms of macro, it gets really overwhelming, especially if you're against Renegades.
Yeah, and the other thing here is that check out the items of Blackfeather. Like, he has a Serpent's Mask already, and one of the like easiest ways to counter that is get a poison shift. But nobody from Renegades is going for it because if you think about it, since there's a Tension Bow on Uni and Teza Boy has also a Tension Bow, they're gonna be able to, I would say, out damage the sustain of, you know, this Blackfeather. And because they have so much items to work with, it's gonna be very difficult for Bren to be able to, I would say, win out the duels. Although they do have some sustain, but it's gonna be very tricky to go up against this high damage team of Renegades.
Indeed, and for the past 5 minutes, Renegades has been, you know, stealing their resources in Bren Esports' own jungle. So in terms of, you know, trying to get back into the game by trying to match up their item spikes, it's really difficult for Bren because they can't really match the damage, and there's the Om Nom Nom again from Uni, and it's just gonna be surrounded by a couple of even Verse of Judgment being used there.
Man, I kind of want to see, yeah, I kind of want to see Uni or the Grump Draw every time he does a successful, you know, pick off with his stuff. It just makes his belly go bigger. I don't know, because, you know, he's been eating a while. He's become the chubby hero, the grump jaw, chubby jaw. Anyways,
Chubby.
3 members. Anyways, 3 members of Renegades will be catching it up. Ooh, wait, I'm a little bit too close for comfort there, brother, as he went in aggressive, does activate the reflex box to get away from the Ordain, but it seems like Mr. Jim going in with the back flank, going aggressive, but Spaghetti, oh my goodness, that is just such a good setup coming out from Aeon. He has shown his worth on the Koshka a while ago. Now he's showing his worth with the Batiste, but he still will go down. Tezaboy joins in onto the fight. There is the use on the gauntlet, and now Tezaboy will be maybe stuck in there, but he does have the reflex block, and it seems like Adagio was able to shut down Black Feather. But while that all was happening, it's El Clasico OG Renegades going with Uni as a split pusher into the bottom tier turret.
They got a lot out of that. I mean, even if Bren Esports won that team fight, they weren't able to transition it into an objective. So wow, even takes one before he falls. Uni, my man.
Exactly.
I'm actually pretty impressed.
Yeah, Hellstead, yeah, because he was able to get pretty significant damage on that bottom tier 3, and he was even able to take down Sync 1, who's supposedly one of the heroes that Bren has that's supposed to, you know, be able to sustain quite well. He's a Samuel with an Eve of Harvest already, and because of that, well, that's going to open up Renegades to rotate to the top. There's no Black Claw just yet, sadly enough, but at least that gives a little bit more time here for Bren Esports to recuperate a little bit. Not any big objectives that Renegades has taken, but their outer turrets are looking quite dismembered, battered, whatever you want to call it, destroyed in the most simplest of terms. But anyways, it's difficult for them.
Exactly. Mid lane is just a chunk away, but they're going to start a fight here as they spot Wham and Pablo Escobar because they have to pick up the pieces from the bot side damage. Now they're pursuing top side, which is a very good decision, but we'll see. They're going to start a fight here.
And the kind of curious thing here is that Bren, since they need the damage items, they don't really build up for sustain or tankiness. And look at that, Neon almost gets blown up, son, as Pablo did give him a little bit of that support, but this is a 3-man barrage from Renegades. Into the mid lane we go. Spaghetti might get caught out here by Mr. Jim, and Mr. Jim wins that duel straight up. Skullcam will spot the Grumchuk going aggressive. Weird use on the Rose offensive, but not sure, maybe it was just to keep the range for Mr. Jim to go up against Uni. Uni should be able to use the stuff, but it seems like he's not going to be able to. So he does falter, but into the top lane once again. It's Renegades opening up pathways here for their team to keep on getting those objectives.
Was Uni soloing Ghostwing earlier? While he was around at the riverside?
Yeah, he was.
So despite that, even though he gets eliminated by the Black Feather, it was still Renegades that won the fight, and it really didn't matter at all, even though they lost a member. And at this point, let's see how Bren Esports will punish this.
Bren Esports will try to punish, but it seems like they were pushed back. Oh my goodness, there's going to be Mr. Jim into the backline, going aggressive on to Tezaboy as he goes in with the auto attack. Can his sustain be enough? It's not going to be the case, as here comes Spaghetti. 2v2 situation, activates the wait for it, goes in back, has the shield, but it's not really going to be enough, as SNK is going to be the last man standing into the top lane. He has to try to get the last hit onto Neon. It's going to be so close, and he still gets it. Oh my goodness, SNK with the kissy face as well. Oh man, that was a little bit of a sweet engagement from both of these teams. Oh my goodness. Crazy plays from the Adagio. Yeah, I mean, his wings made him so fly. Sorry guys, just had to put out that one. Anyways, Uni wanted to go for this Ghost Wing into the bottom lane, but he wasn't able to, sadly enough. And he will be spotted out by Sync 1 as well as Pablo, but he does have the movement speed to get on away. I mean, he has 4 legs, so he's going to be able to skadoodle on out of there, boys. So it's all fine and dandy. But as you can see, if you check out the entirety of the map, there is no tier 2 turret anymore available here for Bren Esports to get any foothold outside of their base, making it very, I would say, what's the term for it? Very choked or very pressured. Yeah, they're just concealed into their own base. They really can't go out without vision, so they have to also get the scout camps up and running for them so that they can spot out where the rotations of Renegades will be happening. But at the same time, Renegades will just say that, you know what, we've already taken out anything except for the Ghost Wing. Why not just go for this Black Claw? Pablo Escobar is going to spot it out with the scout cam. They know that Renegades can spot this because they have their own, because they were kind of split up, as there are some forces into the bottom lane trying to go up against Uni. It's not really gonna matter. Uni does go down, but at the end of the day, what's better? One hero kill or one Black Claw? Everybody's gonna transition now into the bottom lane as Renegade's looking for some blood. Neon C as well as Mr. Jim into a 3v2 situation. Mr. Jim does have a lot of sustainability, but like I said, they can outmatch the sustain with the damage coming out from Renegades. 1,000 crit damage coming out from Tezza Boy. Is this real? Are you not entertained, ladies and gentlemen? Black Claw is going to be pushing into the mid-tier 3 as he smashes onto that. And it's only Pablo Escobar. What can you do? You're only a wrestler, my friend. And he's not going to be able to do it. Ghostwing will be captured here by Renegades. And oh my goodness. Ooh, that is just, again, an El Clasico Renegade strat. Or rather, an El Clasico Renegades byproduct of how they play. Always transitions into objectives and into their opponents, trying to deal with more than one thing at a time.
But we do see here Black Claw going down, so still have fighting chance for Brand Esports, but you know, with all the turrets down, like you mentioned, they are in a very choked position right now, and it's really difficult for them to even just explore out of that base to try to find a fight. And we saw earlier on, although Black Feather and Sync1 found someone, took that person down, but immediately the response coming through from Renegades was just so fast, so swift. They picked up 2 kills for themselves, and now, talking about kills, the top lane.
Yeah, top lane kills gonna be on Mr. Jim, and Wayham got stuffed into the belly of the beast as Uni just goes in a little bit too crazy here, ladies and gentlemen. Gauntlet will be used, but not gonna stop anybody from Renegades at all. Here comes Aeon to blot out the passageway or the exit strategy of Brand Esports, and they get dominated. Ace from Renegades. Oh my god, this might be it. 18 minutes into the game. It actually doesn't feel like 18 minutes, and that Crystal Vein is exposed.
Well, it's exposed, and it will be going down with 2 armories down as well. This is an 18 minutes game. A much cleaner game for Renegades this time round. Their macro movements were just so strong and so prevalent in this battle game as compared to the previous one. And let's all be honest, right? We did think that, you know, with the Koshka being picked up by Brand Esports, maybe Brand would have, you know, stood a chance in this particular game. As with I Request a Duel actually said earlier on, he is looking forward to seeing Brand take a game away from Renegades, but that is not quite the case right now. Then, as you mentioned earlier on, in an earlier team fight with those breaking point stacks, 1,100 crit damage on that Gwen. That is just despicable amount of damage.
Yeah, it's totally. I mean, pardon for my French. It was a little bit disgusting, this area. Yeah, but I think we're gonna be giving it to our casters in a bit. And guys, to break it down even further, let's give it to I Request a Duel and Minimizer. So you fantastic, beautiful gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you, Azurai, Riku, and Luxuria, just in the end there helping out. So yeah, that was 2-0 to Renegades. In the end, our Request Duel's prediction didn't quite come true, but it was still really strong from Brand Esports.
Well, I mean, definitely the first game, I think I saw a lot more hope for Brand. In the second game, it seemed like they didn't really learn from much of their previous lessons, or Renegades were just always a step ahead of them and just outplayed the early game so much that they were able to have so much control over the map and these objectives that it just led them to snowball into the win. As well as giving over a similar draft, very similar. We saw the Grumpjaw come out again, the Gwen. The Gwen is just, you can't overlook that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the next matchups today, or it could just be banned out, but we won't know with that. It's just, it's such a good hero for terms of poke and bursting down, because I think a lot of the strategy there is to eliminate someone from the enemy team, just pick off someone, and then you have the man advantage. If you have such high burst that I heard Asarai or Riku mention earlier, the Serpent's Mask on Black Feather, but thinking that in a lot of situations that won't really matter as long as they're able to get on top of him and burst him down before he's even able to sustain.
Yeah, also they allowed the Adagio as well on SNK. He was that both games. I believe he built an Echo to use Echo on his heal, which was actually really effective to keep people alive, to get that burn on as many people as possible. So that was really impressive from SNK. But yeah, allowing the same picks through in both games, maybe they shouldn't let it through. But it was really just, once again, the Grumpjaw split pushing bot while they were taking a 3 versus 4 fight, and they didn't really care if they lost or won, which is why in these games Renegades did die an awful lot more than what we saw before. But that was just to make sure they could split push, they could get those objectives, and then Grumpjaw trading his life for Samuel is always worth it because he's just got a turret, and it's really effective. They also there was one misplay when they tried to do a Grumpjaw ult into a Gwen ult. They did it perfectly in the first game against the Arden. In the second game, it didn't quite work out as well. The Gwen actually missed her ultimate, but they still got the kill anyway. So that's something that Renegades have clearly been practicing before, and it's worked out so well for them in both the games.
Yeah, well, you did mention that Grumpjaw and overall the fact of more deaths in this game for Renegades, although they seem to snowball it easier, I would say, just because we mentioned earlier that deaths are always worth objectives, as long as you're not going to lose anything back to that. So definitely Renegades playing it very well in the first sprint, put up a good fight there, but Renegades just so much cleaner in terms of objective play in the second, and they were able to shut it out quite easily and quite smoothly, where we could barely believe it was already the end of the game.
Yeah, and as everyone can see, if you don't like playing Gwen at the moment, try and learn to play Gwen, because she has so much damage with her boomstick perk. If you get tension bow, if you get a breaking point, you can stack that up, then you're going to see 4-digit damage numbers as long as you built a little bit of crit. So it was just such a strong build on Gwen, such a strong hero at the moment that it was insane to see that much damage on a weapon Gwen.
Yep, totally agree with you there.
Yeah, so I also think that people should probably be trying to consider whether they want to try and draft the same for both games, because clearly both teams had very similar ideas in what they wanted to pick. But maybe if you think that you're going to lose the first game, then try something completely different. I'm really disappointed that neither Grumpjaw built teleport boots. It's just a little thing. It's not necessary if you're winning the game. If you're behind, it's actually a good strategy to try and come back into the game. But when you're ahead, it just makes more sense. Plop someone out in front of your teammates and then actually get the kill onto them. But the next game after the break is going to be Impunity against Newbies. So don't go anywhere. You're going to want to watch that. See you soon.
The jungle in Sovereign's Rise is home to a whole new set of terrifying monsters with powerful game-changing effects. The Gold Treant is a big jungle monster that grants a large amount of gold when killed. It is best to tackle it with an ally, since both heroes will be given a substantial amount of gold. The Weapon Treant is a special jungle monster that grants a temporary buff to the hero who lands the killing blow. This buff increases all weapon damage that the hero deals and adds a slow to their basic attacks. If the buffed hero is killed, a red orb drops onto the battlefield, granting the buff to the next hero who walks across it. The Crystal Treant is a special jungle monster that grants a temporary buff to the hero who lands the killing blow. This buff increases all crystal damage that the hero deals and also heals the hero for a portion of that damage. If the buffed hero is killed, a blue orb drops onto the battlefield, granting the buff to the next hero who walks across it. Understanding the jungle's inhabitants and what they have to offer can give you the edge you need to achieve victory. See you on the Rise. Sovereign's Rise is home to two terrifying dragons, Blackclaw and Ghostwing. Ghostwing arrives early in the match. When she's about to land, a circle fills on the minimap, indicating that she will arrive soon on Sovereign's Rise. If she is defeated in battle, the team will earn her favor and be granted a powerful buff that provides a regenerating barrier, health, and energy when out of combat. This gives the team a huge advantage in fights, so make sure to group up and engage the enemy to make the best use of the buff that Ghostwing grants. Blackclaw arrives later in the game. When he is about to land, a circle fills on the minimap, indicating that his descent is imminent. Blackclaw's swipes slice through nearby heroes, and his fire breath roasts anyone who comes too close. The team that manages to defeat Blackclaw in battle gains his loyalty, causing him to rampage down the middle lane, attacking structures and enemies standing in his way. You can either escort Blackclaw down the lane to help pave a way to the enemy base, or use him as a distraction and focus on the two side lanes. Making use of the two dragons is absolutely crucial in Sovereign's Rise. You should understand what they do and how to best utilize their gifts if you want to achieve victory. Good luck and see you on the Rise! On Sovereign's Rise, the Vain Crystal is equipped with its own defenses and fights back against enemies who approach it. Its first attack launches a salvo of missiles that locks onto heroes, damaging and slowing them, while its second attack fires a line of explosions that damages and stuns heroes standing in its way. The crystal is also surrounded by shields. As long as all three shields remain, the crystal is impervious to damage. However, destroying the armories that surround the Vain Crystal removes the shields, making the crystal susceptible to attack. Armories are new structures surrounding the Vain Crystals in Sovereign's Rise. They are responsible for powering the Vain Crystal's defenses. When an enemy armory is destroyed, it grants your allied minions in its respective lane a boost, giving them more damage against enemy minions and structures, and reducing the damage they take from heroes. Additionally, every armory that is destroyed strips its Vain Crystal of some of its shielding, making it vulnerable to attack. Targeting the armories makes it easier to push into the enemy base and claim a victory. You can change a hero's appearance and experience their alternate fates with skins. Skins can be purchased with ice in the market, won from chests, or you can craft them. To craft a skin, you must discover that skin's blueprint and collect enough essence to unlock it. Crafting costs vary based on the skin's rarity. Blueprints will be rewarded for completing quests. If you find a blueprint that you don't need, you can destroy it to collect a bunch of essence. Duplicate blueprints are automatically destroyed. Duplicate skins received from chests will transform into opals, which can be used to buy special edition skins in the market. That's it! You're well on your way to Skintimidation.
The time of the Summer Queens is past. The time of the Star Queens has not yet come. Against the coming churn storm, there can only be a Storm Queen. And yet, they come with technology and terror, with shields and armor, blades and bows, magic arcane and unholy, with the power of lightning and even of stars to take my dragon. When the churn swallows their homes, then they will kneel!
Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the Vainglory show matches from Southeast Asia. We're here for the second match of the day, Impunity against Newbies. My name is Minimata, and joining me, once again, I've requested you.
Yes, and we are back for the second match, as you mentioned. Impunity going up against Newbies. Impunity, quite a well-known team. Newbies, as the name suggests, new to the scene, but we'll have to see what they can bring. I believe you said they've played once before in these show matches, however.
Yeah, certainly. They have played before. They played quite well, actually, but they haven't played against a team as good as Impunity quite yet. Renegades were unbeaten coming up to today, and they remained unbeaten. Impunity are currently also unbeaten, so they've got a lot to live up to. Renegades won 2-0, and so now Impunity are going to want to try and take this 2-0, and Newbies just going to try and see what they can do. Can they get a game off of Impunity? And I think, as we saw in the last game, it's just going to come down to, can you win fights and also make sure you don't keep losing objectives?
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. What we saw, Renegades, their real strong point, other than already being such an experienced team with the game in terms of team fights, and that's where I said Bren Esports would be able to keep up with them in that factor. But where they weren't quite able to keep up with Renegades was Renegades have seemed to figured out how to play 5v5. They really can work the meta and work the new map the way they want to and push the objectives. They seem to know the timing and just the right opportunities that they can take there. And from there, it really creates a good footing for them to go into the mid to late game.
Yeah, they definitely know when they can try the split push and when they need to just back off and like maybe take a death, but just make sure they don't give up anything from that. One thing that they also do really well is they make sure that if they're going to take a team fight, then the lanes are in a good position. So even if they lose, they only lose a dragon from it. They can't lose the turrets as well, because you need minions to take down turrets. Turrets are just too strong for anything except about 4 late game heroes to actually take it down. And so that those minion waves before you fight is something that all teams need to be focusing on, because it's kind of pointless winning a fight, especially if Ghostwing isn't up. It's pointless to win a fight if you can't get any turrets out of it.
Well, I agree there, and I just hope to see that if their rivals Unity have been putting in the same amount of practice into this new 5v5, and they've developed just a stronger strategy here. And I think that if there's any other team to do so, it would be that of Impunity.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting to see whether Impunity are going to have the same level of map awareness that we saw from Renegades. I'm also interested to see if it's just going to be one member of Impunity who decides to do the split push, because from Renegades we saw it was mainly the Grumpjaw that was pushing down the side lanes, but quite often from teams it will tend to be whoever happens to be in the best lane to do so. And so if you have a Lorelei who's in the top lane and a fight breaks out in bot, then you decide, okay, it's time for you to split push, this is the best idea for the moment. Or maybe you're just going to have one hero that goes to whichever lane is the most pushed. So maybe a Rona, always so good at split pushing, same as a Jewel could be. And whether you're going to see one specific person in charge of that, or whether it's going to be the whole team that does it.
Yeah, well, how I was explaining 5v5 meta to one of my friends recently, it sounds a bit silly, but really heroes that have a good, as we mentioned, bruiser heroes such as Rona and Cruel, good survivability heroes, as well as that I said, oh yeah, but AoE, single target's also good. Oh, and you should have mobility and CC. And then when I think about it, there's a lot of versatility you can bring into 5v5, yet there's certain heroes that just somehow, as long as they have all that in their kit, that's exactly why Rona and Cruel work out so well. I mean, you've got survivability, bruiser, CC in there. You've got soft CC for Rona, but hard CC for Cruel. But Cruel is single target and Rona is AoE. And then you go to heroes like Gwen, who's got like lots of burst. And this is where assassins seem to find a way. Assassins and what could be considered old carries, such as Gwen and Vox, just anyone able to really burst down people. They find their own way, because we talked about previously, as long as you're able to take someone out of the picture, you then have the man advantage in a team fight, or just your then put that much pressure on a certain point of the map if you're not on the team fight stages of the game yet, and they would either have to react to that by sending someone up to rotate to your pressure, or they just leave it and lose the objective, which is probably the wrong thing to do. It's definitely a reactionary game, and that's why I think newbies are going to have to work on here playing up against Impunity, is how they react to the strategy of Impunity and how they push.
Yeah, because it's so important to remember that if you're being pushed, if they're in your bot lane, going to take the turret down, the best reaction is not always we need to run there and defend it, as it was in 3v3. If someone was taking down the turret, you go towards them and try and kill them. In 5v5, if they're taking the bot turret, your best bet is probably to take top or mid, because in the time it takes you to run down to the bot lane, they've already got the turret and backed off, and then it's too late. And so it's all about that timing, and the time it takes for heroes to move across the map is really important. So you're normally best off just staying where you are, trying to be impactful in the places where you have the man advantage. But we are now loading into Sovereign's Rise for the first game between Impunity and Newbies. Casters, take it away.
And we will. My name is Asarai, and joining me now is the one, the only, the Popcorn Man, Luxuria.
Hello, and I had thought the popcorn had kind of worn off, like,
no.
I haven't quite, been saying it anymore, at least. But coming into this first game between Impunity and Newbies, although the devs did say that Newbies is a relatively new team, but they actually won the beginning cup, like I mentioned in the previous week, in Vietnam. So I have got like high expectations from them. Also, we realized a lot of teams as well that they rely a lot on their micro plays rather than the macro gameplay, which is the key of 5v5.
True that. I mean, being able to try to create pressure in one lane and get like objectives in the other is what kind of separates a lot of teams already, and that's also the reason why I think Renegades are one of if the not top team right now in our 5v5 show match. It's just that they're so good at making things happen all around the map at simultaneous times. But now there's gonna be a little engagement. Ruffy's gonna go a bit too over aggressive, and at least he will give Court of War some time to get that last hit onto the healing treant, but this might be a double kill for the side of Newbies.
Well, I had thought that proxy farming coming out from Impunity will be, a new strategy, but it's not the case. They just overstayed the welcome for a little too long and giving away too early kills to Newbies at least. That is what has been happening in this early game. About 2 minutes in and 2 kills for Newbies. Newbies definitely looking very strong, and maybe Renegades, or rather Impunity, have to rethink the strategy, because DevQ now going very low, going up against the CP Vox, or rather, I hope it's a CP Vox, or I think it's a CP Vox coming out from Newbies.
Yeah, I think it should be a CP Vox. I think most Vox right now thrive more on the CP build, but their starting items just revolve around the weapon power just to make sure that they get last hits properly, and I think the Book of Eulogies just for that little bit of sustain.
Yeah, very nice pressure across all lanes, especially if you have a glaive around. Oh, and just talking about lanes, Ink, very, very low, and will be picked up by Rez. Our next target will be Truffless. Let's see if that doggo can run away, and that will be the case.
Doggo or Popper. I love the terminology, but anyways, yeah. Well, he will be able to run away here, but it's a little bit of Lat gonna push him a little bit aggressive, and Mimi will go for the dive, follow up on the damage, but not get the assassination or the takeout.
Yep, and there's one thing about, basically Baron in general as a hero in 5v5. A lot of people has been saying that, a lot of players at least say that he's not very viable because he scales too late into the game, but giving away kills to a Baron in this early game. Talking about kills, and Baron DevQ going up with that pun.
Oh, does he have the jump jets to get away? Looks like no, and he will get obliterated, but not before getting the last hit onto the glaive. Truffies was able to make something happen with that heavy dive onto the Baron, and the Rhyme, well, he can make them stick, but he wasn't able to stave away the pressure onto his carry.
Yep, and that will be the Cyborg. Very apt IGN on this Baron going down for the first kill of Impunity at least. Now we do see Inked or the Ringo coming out into this not mid lane, but rather getting ganked, or rather led on that Grace try to gank at least. And we saw a change in 3.0 as well for Grace. She's no longer as strong, I mean, for the ability to cool down her basic attack, else she is still relatively even as compared to, you know, her pre-changed in this 3.0 at least.
Yeah, the other thing I kind of noticed here is that, I mean, considering what happened in the previous game between Renegades, is that I think Neon C was the one who used it. When you use that Ringo, he kind of like falters a lot against heroes who have dives because he doesn't have mobility, right? And most of the teams who kind of make him work is that teams that give him as much support as possible, being able to keep him alive under, you know, under all of this siege while giving him items, and then he's just gonna spike into the later stages. And I think that's where Impunity here have to be careful, is just they have to keep him farming at the same time safe. And then he might just be able to close this out, but, you know, just something I just kind of noticed.
Yep, and I do really like these rotations coming out from both teams as well. They are being very proactive with this, you know, current 5v5 map, and this Ryan will just be going down. Although spotting DevQ pretty much early in that team fight, but will not be able to go up 1v2. The Cyborg was very, very low, then had to fall back.
That's really scary. I mean, a Rona and a Glaive rotation in the top lane. Rhyme or Baron not really going to be able to defend for themselves. I mean, Rhyme's pretty good at controlling melee heroes, but at the same time, he can still get obliterated if there's too much damage, and it did. Cordovan in a 1v1 against 2001. He's not going to be able to push him out anymore, but there might be a 2v2 situation here. DefQ is going to be rotating in. I'm not sure if Lyle was able to spot him out, but here comes DefQ. Not going to use the afterburn, so no follow-up just yet.
Yep, I really like Team Com coming out from the side of Impunity. However, they have got a lot of chase and gang potential as well. And talking about that, Quarter 4 definitely keeping that of 2001 at bay, while 3 members of Impunity head on to take this Ghostwing that just spawned 6 minutes in. Oh, a fight may just come out.
Early take on this Ghostwing right here, so close. He does get the kill though, but not the steal. So I think that is a favored trade for Impunity. They're fine with losing at least Truffles on that Fortis by himself, and there's gonna be the oop alley-oop into the Embracing Hands of Ink. There's gonna be the heal, but Lat might go down here as a nice, I would say, zone out from Cordovan. Doesn't allow him to go underneath the safety of his turret.
I like how Impunity is actually changing their strategy quite a bit, especially with that turret buff. You can turret now have got 2 times defense pre 6 minutes, so they immediately transition into that Ghostwing and then moved on onto this bottom tier turret. And just look at this manpower just being in place in this bottom tier, and that's easy 2 tiers for the side of Impunity. As with the top lane as well, the Cyborg was able to push down 1, but it's, you know, the goal difference coming through. It's 23,021, so it's not a lot at this point, but even then, I just really like the strategy and, you know, the mindset, mentality going into this game.
Yeah, it feels a bit more polished for Impunity there. They're able to dictate what they want to do, and newbies cannot counter it as well as they would want to. I think it's just because they don't have their level 6 just yet, and Impunity doesn't need their ultimates to make something happen properly. I mean, once DefQ goes in with the afterburn, he's going to be able to follow up with some kills on the Court of War. If, like, he's able to follow up with the forward barrage, it's really just, I would say, nice use of skills before they have the ultimates. And this, I think, is what Impunity is doing. And, well, at least now, Newbies does at least have members who are 7 already, so they got something to work with if they want to go for the team fights. But, like you said, there is a little bit of that advantage, and you just liking how many turrets Impunity has got.
Yep, I mean, it's 7-7 now for standing turrets for both teams. But there is one thing that we mentioned 2 weeks before between Renegades, and when Renegades were up against Guardians Royale, and it's the manpower distribution of the teams itself. We are seeing something very similar to Guardians Royale's playstyle from Impunity, just going 4-man, push a lane, 5-man, take down a turret. but it's not quite working well because even though they are able to push, 2 turrets in the bottom lane, easily, very easily, Newbies was able to just pick up 2 other for themselves, both in the top lane and the mid lane itself. So Impunity maybe have to, re-strategize as to how they are going to go about pushing this turret and whether or not it's worth it to just invest 4 people, quarter 4 now, in a very tough position.
Oh, I think he didn't get the memo right there, as members of Newbies was able to go for the rotation, but still Cordoba survives, and it seems to be a much more difficult situation here for Newbies to make something out of nothing. DefQ was shut down, but this is a 2-for-1 exchange. Ink's gonna go in, use the Hellfire Brew, and might follow up, but never mind. Still though, it looked like Cordoba was supposed to go down there, but he was able to get through the thickest of thicks, the thinnest of thins, and he was able to even get his team a kill advantage. Ion Cannon so close to connecting onto Cordoba. Oh! Well,
that is...
Alright,
well,
okay, it's fine.
I mean, that was supposed to happen like a minute ago, or 30 seconds ago at least, but you can't quite run away from karma, if that is the right term to use. But now Trophy's trying to steal farm away from NQ Min on that rhyme, and another team fight may just be happening. I may with that nether form detonation.
Ooh, Truffle is gonna be trying to get away from this one. Very low on HP, smack into the face of Mimi. Dashes in, going aggressive onto Trophies, goes for the spin to win, Beyblade all the way every day, but not gonna be enough. And it seems like, well, Newbies here are gonna be able to claim themselves a Ghost Swing, as the other members of Impunity, the stragglers here, will try to spot them out with the flares, rotate around, and hope to get the last hit, maybe even get an assassination onto Mimi here because he's very low on HP, and that's gonna be, oh my goodness, the doggo, the pupper, leaps in, gets the last hit, but now Cyborg has joined in onto the fight. Attack of the Pack will be activated just to give a little bit more, I would say, blockage here for this fortress to get away. Oh, that was a little bit too close for comfort, but at the opposite side, Cordoba will get taken out, and our kills will be 7-11.
7-11, 32.6 to 33.2. So Newbies right now not looking all too shabby. I really like the Fortress pickup in this particular draft coming out from Impunity. It is just to stop the sustain coming out from Lab on that Grace, and it's working relatively well right now. And on top of that as well, the chase of Fortress with that Rona and DefQ on that, glaive in itself, it is just such good synergistic comp. But we spoke about sustain versus burst in the previous game between Renegades and Boom Esports, or rather Brand Esports, and to be quite honest, the burst constantly wins out. But then at this point, we are seeing Newbies actually taking, quite a lot of damage and just able to just go through the whole team fight, although they have quite an amount of burst coming out from the side of Impunity. And talking about burst, another team fight may just be happening around this Ghost Wing, Ion Cannon, just to help secure this, and the Ghost Wing will go over to the side of Newbies.
And as they get themselves an objective into the top lane, Cyborg might be in a bit of a pickle here, ladies and gentlemen, as it seems like he gets smacked around, son. Truffulus as well as DefQ will get the win on that one, and he might have just tried to maybe make something happen into the top lane, get that tier 2, but it seems like it's not going to happen any further. DefQ will be trapped here, rooted down, has the afterburn to get on away, out of there, pushes Lat away as he tries to make space for himself. He's very low, gotta be careful here as members of Newbies will try to push them out, but as you can see mid lane, that's where all the action is happening. 2001 eats quite a bit of lead, gotta be careful, he's very low, but Impunity doesn't want to go for that dive.
Yep, I mean 5v3, they can definitely go in. DefQ just waiting on that moment for the afterburn, but we do see now Grace going in with, but the fight may just be transitioning over this Crystal Triad.
From top lane to mid lane to bottom lane, action every day. This is what I love about this game. Oh my goodness, there's gonna be the Rona trying to go mano a mano. Just the one man YOLO man, not gonna be enough though. He gets bursted down, and DefQ trying to run away, activates the boots, getting slowed down by Lat as well as Min here, and he's got to be careful. Even under the turret, they have enough HP to make something happen, and they do, and that's going to be 2 kills. Actually, make that 3 for newbies.
Well, sustain versus burst, and let's see. And we are seeing the sustain coming out on top with the fortified health of that Rhyme. He's just able, if he connects that Winter Spires on all 5 members, not even talk about 5, let's talk about just 4 members, he can just stay in the thick of fights for a very, very long time. And of course, you have that Reza, and you mentioned, an important point earlier on is that Ringo, very, very afraid of, heroes that can just dive onto the back lines, and that is what the Reza is for. Quarter 4 now into 3 members, but we'll just be able to just, move safely back into that turret. But the Cyborg in the top lane, it is in a very dangerous position. A lot of pressure coming up from that Rona in this top lane as well. But like you mentioned, the fights have been going from the top to mid to even the bot. But, newbies still coming on the top of that. At this point in time, they are struggling, and they are stagnated, not sure which objective to take.
Oh, that's so good! The forward barrage connects, even through 2 members of newbies trying to block it away. 4 of the members of the team here of Impunity is going to be going in onto the mid as Truppies tries to take down this turret. There it is, smack into your face, and DefQ claims the turret, claims the Rhyme. Newbies gotta back off. Ghostwing should be up in a matter of seconds, and there might not be enough members here, not enough HP for the side of newbies to actually try to contest this one. They gotta be careful, because right now there is Impunity, just carrying a lot of hurt in their, I would say, damage backpack. But seems like there's gonna be Impunity to try, or rather newbies to try to contest this one with only 3 members, and Impunity will have to respond for that. Attack at the back was activated just to push him out a little bit. But now, as the Ringo joins in onto the fight, it seems like Impunity will be more confident to just go in. Ooh, the dog goes to the pound, and it seems like Cote d'Ivoire will follow him through to claim his dog. Oh my goodness, Mimi just comes out of nowhere like John Cena, and he just does the attitude adjustment, gets 3 kills once again for newbies.
Wow, and DefQ not in that fight whatsoever. Just impossible for a Glaive to go in right now without that extra sustain. Definitely going for that triple or quadruple spell sword build right now on this on this Glaive. It worked when 5v5 first came out because you have your afterburn out so very, very often. But now as a Glaive, when you are expected to be in the thick of fights, it's just so difficult. I would have recommended, or I would have preferred at least the Serpent's Mask breaking point, maybe just to stay there for a very long time. But now Black Claw is getting started by newbies, and let's see if they can secure it, or will DefQ be able to just, his presence just able to just, back, or rather force the entire team of newbies to back up.
Kind of curious that Cyborg here went for Serpent's Mask and double Tyrant's Monocle. No Swordblade just yet, possibly just for that that extra sustain with the Tyrant Monocle's crit as well. They did go for the Black Claw, but they were taking quite a bit of significant damage there, and they have to be careful. Impunity here, they're trying to control the waves onto the mid as well as the bot. I think they will be able to slow push this bottom lane as there is a minion, Captain Minion there. So if the fight persists too long on this Black Claw, it might be Impunity stacking a lot into the bottom lane. But at the same time, they're going for the Ghostwing.
Yep, and Impunity definitely just advancing forward into the side of newbies because they know in, well, I said 10 seconds, I want to say 10 seconds, Ghostwing will be, captured and be released. But now another team fight will just be happening in this mid lane.
Oh, they're forcing it too much. They're in a very tight situation, coming out from a gate that is just going to be able to get punished by Impunity. Although the Baron is going to go a little bit wild. Jump Jets in your face, gets a double kill, even looking for more blood as Cyborg goes in. Here, Mimi going for the smash, but it's not really going to be enough. Cote d'Ivoire in a 2v1 here into the bottom side of the lane and go with the forward barrage. Oh my goodness. He just takes the Rhyme down. And he even wants more blood onto Lat, but he's got to be careful as seems like the Reza and the Baron will be joining onto the fight. What the heck was that? Suri strike for the win, my ladies and gentlemen, as he was able to almost get away from the engagement, but Baron just has that good of a range.
Yep, and there is one thing about going for Serpent's Mask, breaking point, and into double Tyrant's Monocle on a Baron is that he can just stay on for such a long time in the team fight, and I think it's just down to target. Basically, how target focused Impunity is. In that particular team fight itself, we saw just Baron just left open, and the main target was actually that Vox, which, you know, I mean, as a CP, Vox will do a lot of damage, right? In 1v1, maybe, you know, you just try to go for that Baron rather than that Vox, where Sky, we saw, can just comfortably take down. So the issue right now for Impunity is that because the team comp is so single target focused, they have to pick the right ones.
Yeah, true that. It looked like there was that one good clash that, you know, they might have been able to win because Newbies was coming out from a very tight angle, which was, if they had like an AoE composition, it would have been more damage dealt onto them, but, well, I kind of forgot that they didn't, and like you said, they need to really go for that single target, well, initiation, and it seems like they were able to find an opening here. They get the Rhyme. That's going to be good because at least the Rhyme will not be able to stop now the pursuit of this glaive as well as the Rona, so they gotta be careful, son. Rona actually goes in with the flank and he wins that duel. 2001 will get blown up, 501 crit coming out from Inked, and this Black Claw should follow through, but not before Cordovois puts a little bit more cherry on top of that really nice dessert, getting another kill onto the Grace.
Yep, and this is the problem right now we are seeing coming up from Newbies. It's that they just get so distracted, they were so spread out, and were just playing into the hands of Impunity, I might say. Impunity, like I mentioned earlier on, very single targeted focus, and Newbies should just take advantage of that and just fight as a team rather than just, so, you know, just getting so spread out and just all over the place, and they're just playing into the hands of Impunity. Now with Black Claw unleashed, Black Claw, she will trump down this lane. She will just go down this lane and just wreak havoc. And let's see if the side of Newbies can defend against this dragon that's coming out from and being unleashed onto this foe.
Man.
Onto the Rise, sorry, not the foe. The Rise.
It's the Rise. It's alright, it's alright. The Storm Queen's Rise, man. But in any case, the only way for them to beat a dragon is if they have a dragon. I'm just kidding. Going back into the fight, there's going to be the Iron Cannon activated here by the Baron, and with the damage from all of the members of Newbies making something happen, they will be able to at least take down this Black Claw before that turret goes down. It is critically low though, down to around 30-40% HP, and Impunity not losing anybody, clearing out the jungles, again, just choking out all of the control, all of the resources here of Newbies, and even putting down some vision as well will definitely help them close out this fight. It's going to be risky here to try to take down the Scout Cam because Defq can just go in with the Afterburn, and like this, going aggressive onto Noman, but never mind as there are plenty of members of Newbies positioned into the mid lane. If they really want to engage upon this, this is going to be risky. Here comes the Ringo as well as the Sky, putting a little bit more of the fear into the eyes of, well, Newbies here.
Yep, I think Quarter 4 is the main target and should be bursted down first, as we do see Newbies advancing forward, trying to find a fight, trying to force something out of this, but Rona in that bot lane just pushed down that bottom tier turret, just giving them the advantage, and just basically a very great distraction coming out from Impunity, allowing Rona to do just that. Ghostwing maybe tried, nope.
A flank is just what they need to get more in that bank. Oh my goodness, Defq is going to be going into the front line. Might take quite a bit of damage here. Intervention activated onto 2001, so no more ultimate for the Grace to come out as the Ringo going down. More kills coming out from the Baron, and they stick too much to each other, and the AoE potential here of Newbies is just coming online, ladies and gentlemen, as Truffless trying to run away for his life. The dog is slowed. Put a leash on that dog, not a dog on that leash, as they might take down this fortress. Ay, 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 he's gonna get taken out. Cordovois comes back, goes in with the forward barrage, does put a little bit of damage onto Min, and here comes Truffles once again. Spin to win, can he go for the Beyblade? But the intervention will push through. Truffles is gonna be taking so much damage from the Baron, but here comes Cordovois, might make it, break it, or rather, make it back for his team. 1v1, Mono eat Mono, who's gonna be able to win? Oh my goodness! Sorry Strike just comes out from nowhere and obliterates the face of that Baron. Oh my goodness.
Oh no, I mean me trying to go for that highlight reel plays as well, but will be taken down. And that is an IQ for Quarter 4. scoring that triple and that unofficial quadruple or quadra kill for Impunity and himself. 2001 in a very bad spot right now. Maybe caught out, but will just be able to skate scot-free.
He will be able to. Wonder why people keep calling it scot-free, but anyways, he'll be able to, even using, I mean, we didn't really go into this, but this is the first time I'm seeing in 5v5, or in 5v5 show match, the Vox on ice. Looks pretty good.
Vox on ice. I think we need now an Elsa of sorts, like a
Exactly.
Celeste on ice. Yeah, it will just be, awesome to watch. But now Ghostwing will be captured by the likes of Impunity, and the side of Newbies now just basically reacting to Impunity. Just lost the tempo all of a sudden. They are trying to force the fight. I mean, the goal difference is not large 2 minutes ago, but now it's sitting at around 4k, 5k, and they are trying. They're just holding on to this, basically breaking point as to whether or not they can actually find another fight, or just back off, farm up, and then try to force when the side of Impunity is low. I think, for the side of Newbies, they reacted well earlier on. They know the strength of their comp, and it's to just group up the entirety of Impunity. But when they try to go in for that 1v3 earlier on against Quartervore, it was just Quartervore's heaven, because Quartervore has got the Dragon's Eye, he can stack, he has got the Broken Myth as well, and there's pretty much nothing the side of Newbies could have done then. So let's just see if they can find something, if they can connect those Winter Spires and that Valkyrie onto 4 members, and just try to dodge out those Suri strikes and even those 4 barrages coming up from Quartervore, and they have a good chance in this next team fight.
They're gonna go for the backdoor here and even destroy the turret, even with that extra shield on it. Quartervore pushed a little bit through, but it seems like Newbies can't go for that punish as Quartervore connects once again a full forward barrage onto 2001. 50 seconds left on this boy, and it seems like into the top lane there's gonna be more action as Mimi and Lat try to make something happen against the Rona. 4v5 situation, ladies and gentlemen. There is a lot of AoE damage to come through from the side of Newbies if the Baron can just connect his shot. He's going to get aggressive onto that Q. Might not be the best target to do so. Quarterball would be the better one, but in the process of that, he lost his life and not really making much impact, much worth on what he kind of focused on. And now it's going to be 4 members still alive for Impunity, battering down into the base of Newbies.
Yep, and I was expecting a much cleaner fight coming out from the side of Impunity, but Newbies definitely show that they are a team that, players should watch out for. They understood the mechanics, they knew how to rotate against, especially teams that like to pull out the 4v1 kind of rotation, and so very splendid players coming out from Newbies, but at the end of the day, it is a Vein Crystal that matters, and Impunity took this first game against Newbies 27-26.
Anyways, I guess the term is break it down even further, we're just gonna give it to Minimiter and I Request a Duel, so guys, take it away.
Thank you for that casting, Azurai and Lakshya. Such a close game, it was back and forth both ways, but Impunity just about in the end managed to take the victory.
Yeah, and I think it really came down to Impunity for the early part of the game, I'd say, not really stepping up to the plate, or Newbies just putting up such a great performance themselves. It seems like they've come back in this week from the previous week. They've learnt a lot, and you could see really pushed it and almost had the win before Impunity started pushing back. I think Newbies' problem, and a problem we see with a lot of up-and-coming teams, is that understanding of how to transition your kills into objectives. And I saw that as quite a problem there, where they had the man advantage around, I believe it was maybe Blackclaw, and then Glaive showed up and they just decided, okay, we're not confident enough to take this. We don't want to risk the steal. But I think that's a bit of a wrong call there. And even if they weren't going to go for Blackclaw after that, they kind of just stood around. They didn't do anything from there.
Yeah, I definitely think that confidence in actually taking it, or if you see someone like a Glaive trying to steal and you know it's only one or maybe two, just go in for the fight, go and kill them. Then if someone else comes, you kill them, and you just repeat that until you're actually able to get the Black Claw. That was what we saw Renegades do in their first game. They started up the Black Claw. Arden came to try and steal. They instantly dived him, killed him, and then it was pretty simple because it's kind of a message to the enemy team. If you come again, we'll just kill you. And so that is one thing they do want to work on. Also, they need to not overextend for the kills. They went down to the bot lane trying to kill a Sky, and she just basically 1v3'd. Then Reza went, no, I can do this, and he died as well. And that's the kind of thing that it was just unnecessary. You could have left the Sky alive, gone back, pushed the lanes, got a dragon, and you would have been in a much better position. But they tried to overextend a bit too far.
Well, speaking about Court of War on that Sky, I think the Frostburn pickup really helped out there. Usually, I personally don't build Frostburn on Sky, but in that situation, it just meant no one could touch her. The Rhyme couldn't get on top of them, neither could the Reza, who then tried to join in the fight. Just really worked out well with the stacking items as well, such as the Dragon's Eye. That is obvious pickup. But that's something I'd also like to point on. Impunity's team comp at first had me a bit worried. It didn't seem like they had enough CC or enough burst in there to really take anyone down in the early game, and that's why they were also struggling, whereas you look over at Newbies, who had quite a decent comp put together in terms of CC and being able to lock down, get kills. And it just took the time that I think Impunity needed to ramp up to that end game, where when those fights broke out, it came down to the mechanical players and were able to then show their experience and take the win.
Yep, and now we are loading into the second game between Impunity and Newbies. Can Newbies get a game off, or will Impunity take it 2-0? Azariah and Luxuria, take it away.
Thank you for that introduction. And let's just look at this composition built by Newbies. Another Koshka to come out. Well, with that in mind, we're just going to see a lot more earlier aggression. Don't you think so, Luxuria?
Yep, I hope for earlier aggression coming out from Newbies. I mean, they played spectacular in that first game. However, in this game, I'm expecting a lot more for the side of Impunity at least. I mean, we have DevQ on that crew, and played so well 2 weeks before, scoring himself 5 kills, or was it 7? Something along those lines, 5 minutes into game. So the side, the side of Impunity's comp doesn't look all too shabby. They have got enough CC, call, collapse, silence from Wait For It. They have got a stun from Hell's Heart, from DevQ on the crew, and of course the Mortal Wound from Fortress as well. So it doesn't look all too shabby. As for the side of Newbies, quickly breaking it down, they have got, a ton of CC silence coming out from Catherine, instantaneous, very, very reliable stun as well. And for Koshka, Yummy Catnip Frenzy is a thing, and of course the Oblivion from Samuel. Although, a lot of those CCs, they aren't quite a large lockdown. They are considered hard CCs, but not quite the lockdown as compared to Impunities. But I'm expecting, a rather even game, although a lot more from Impunity.
True that. Baron might be in a very sticky situation here, as there was a 3-man rotation from Impunity. The power of that crawl in the early game is just showing, like, I think the other counterpart to the Koshka in terms of the early aggression game is this crawl. Gonna go 1v1. Oh, look at that. Spectral Smite, this might be it. The damage could be enough, and the pop, it is! And there's gonna be the first blood for Impunity, taking it away from Newbies.
Yep, and once again, Impunity actually employing basically the manpower over, basically just rotating around the map, just using the fact that they have a man advantage over the opposing team, which is not a bad thing. But, as long as teams just able to play around with this, especially at the 6-minute mark, and you can just, just force and put pressure in the other lanes, this particular rotation will be very, very bad. And now we do see iMimi actually going in for quarter 4, diving turret, taking a lot of shots as well. And quarter 4 able to secure that kill for himself in that mid lane.
I can feel a little bit of that Salt Bay coming out from iMimi as he tries to go in a bit too over-aggressive, hoping to get that kill onto Cordoval. But I think Cordoval had his flask still up, so when he dove, he had that extra shield and HP regen to be able to out-sustain the damage output of iMimi. But into the bottom lane, once again, might be a little bit of action here. 2v1 for 2001, although he is on the Baron, so he can farm a little bit safe with his range as well as that Porcupine Mortar of his.
Yep, definitely. Just able to just farm by the turret is always a good thing, but we cannot quite forget the team comp coming out from the side of Impunity. They have got a Fortress, as with last game, and we saw Fortress in the last game just able to aid in that chase in that early game, and paired up with Inked on that Fox, just a lot of damage will befall 2001 on that Baron if they just able to just connect and wombo combo through, all of which, of course, Inked right now have to scale up quite a bit before, you know, reaching that power spike, and we do see here maybe a weapon box will be coming out.
Kind of curious to see if that's really going to be the case, because once again, there is much more favoritism with the CP Vox, but that is because he is on the mid lane. He gets his farm a little bit quicker. But CP Vox, or rather Weapon Power Vox, is actually, I think, acceptable in the side lanes. He can farm a little bit better. At least you're not wasting that mage slot in the mid. At least that role falls under Cordoval.
Yep, and like the analyst actually said earlier on, that, you know, newbies definitely learn from their previous games, and we are seeing now they are not overextending. DevQ just unable to score those very early kills for himself, so that's always a good thing. River Shops have now spawned 5 minutes in, but Impunity pushing this turret in even before the 6-minute mark, and they might just have to pay for their sins because Cyber X is just rotating down.
Ooh, that's super close. DevQ at the verge of extinction. iMimi will try maybe to dive once again, but, well, first time is the charm. He won't go overly aggressive. Knows that there's still the possibility of the sustain for the Krull and the punish that comes out with this 3-man stack of Impunity into the bottom lane. Might be in transition into the Ghost Swing, but never mind. Maybe just the aggression onto Cordoval, but since he has that bottom brush, or mid-bottom side brush worded, or has a scout cam in it, he does have the vision to know that there is that offensive rotation coming out from newbies.
Yep, he might know that, but I really like one thing, however, coming out from, you know, it's just basically the side of Impunity. They're not playing as aggressive as the previous game. In the previous game, we saw Quarter War as well as Trophies going in for that early invade. However, now we are seeing a more, you know, more steady, slow game. They just know that they have to farm up. They have to get into that late game. And then, of course, you have DevQ just constantly roaming around and just applying pressure in the lane that he's just sitting in. And that is one thing that I really like coming out from DevQ, although unable to score, you know, kills for himself just yet.
Yeah, no kills for himself. iMimi there, though, using every single movement speed buff that he can use to get on out there. Doesn't want to give any kills for this Krull. And something that I kind of noticed a while ago in the top lane, we didn't really talk about this, was there's a kill from this Blackfeather against the Idris. And, well, although Blackfeather is good in, you know, the mid game to someone in the late game, having that 1v1 against the Idris might not be the easiest thing, but he was able to do it. And I don't know, just something that I kind of enjoy watching when BF can actually do that against the Idris.
Well, I'm sure if it's an early game before Idris gets that, you know, Shimmer Strike, there's a possibility. And of course, you know, Blackfeather, he has got, you know, the health barrier as well from on point. So if you can land those skill shots, it will be relatively easy. But now in a 1v2, what can Trophies do with that heal buff as well? Can Trophies actually go in? But just looking at the bottom lane, as we were talking about DevQ, not scoring kills, able to pick one up and an assist for himself.
And there's just action happening all across the border. Can Trophies actually get one more love tap here to get his sustain back up? Yes, he can. Yes, he will. Merciless Pursuit and the Stormguard will push him back out. And like you said, there was a kill into the bottom lane, as I believe that was iMimi going down. And with that in mind, it's going to be Impunity to start up this Ghost Swing once again. A little bit 2 minutes late from what they had from the previous one, but still pretty dang early. Fortress.
Yeah, but I mean, Impunity, they are definitely playing a little more polished as compared to the first game itself. 7 kills to none in favor of Impunity. On top of that, able to just score that bottom turret and that goal swing, putting them 5k ahead of newbies. What can newbies do now? They have got very late scaling heroes, so maybe in that late game, newbies can come out on top, but impressive going over to trophies on that Black Feather.
Boomerang bang comes out from this crawl, and Idris might be in a very precarious situation here, as it seems like there's going to be a 3, maybe 4-man stack. I just keep it to 3. You know, it takes 3. It's going to be fine. Captain Minion will be the last man standing, and then Turret, and then the Idris. Does he have an ultimate? Yes, he does, but it's going to be very difficult for him to make this, I would say, 3v1 micro happen. It's not going to be enough. They'll charge him in. There's too much chase potential with the Fortress, but never mind, hold that thought. Mimi though, but Trophies coming in aggressive with this Black Feather. Defq goes in, aggressive as well. Smashing him, 1 more, 2 more, but Mimi shuts him down, makes it possible to keep this Idris alive while also getting kills at the same time. But now, Cordoval has joined in onto the mix, and Mimi, oh no, the cat purred too long, scratched the post for too much, and he's gonna get a little bit punished as he will go down.
And that Solar Storm snipe coming out from Quarterval onto that Idris, able to pick him up. And now the side of Impunity will just easily transition, just transition into that mid-tier turret of newbies. As we can tell, it is sitting there excruciating low, and even bugs my eye that, them not being a little more aggressive to push this. And as I'm saying that, Quarterval with 1 Heliogenesis will be able to pick it up.
He does. And with that, quite a huge lead in terms of the gold for Impunity here, almost stacking up to 10,000, around 9,000 or 8,000 already against newbies. Item-wise, they're really heading up. I think they have like 1+ item against newbies side. And like you said, there is the Vox already building up into breaking point and the poison shiv. So all of the sustain that comes out from the Samuel and the other members is not going to be too much. Ooh, okay. We're going to be seeing a little bit of the action here into the bottom lane as Black Feather deals with the Samuel. But now into the mid lane we go. Quarterval is doing what he can, and he can do it all the way. Drops down some really sick Heliogenesis and even snipes Noman from where he stands from far away. That was pretty amazing.
Well, now Trophy is caught in this 1v2, but I would not call it, getting caught out. Rather, Trophy's catching 2 praise out on that. Black Feather able to pick up Mimi on that Koshka and scare that Baron away. And on top of that as well, the bot lane is now being pushed in by Ink, and Impunity looking very well, very good for themselves. Although Quarterval in a very dangerous position. Solarstone comes out, will connect onto Catherine and just score a little, or rather heal himself back a little more because of that crystal buff. So very well played from Quarterval, just able to sustain a little longer in that lane, making full use of that crystal buff. And Cruel going on a rampage, able to pick up Idris for himself, and Mimi now in a very dangerous.
He hasn't used his from Hell's Heart here, so that's going to be something that they can use into the top lane to go for the pickoffs. But that's not where the action happening is, guys. Come on, let's go to the mid lane, as it seems like Impunity is going to be once again dealing out the damage. There is Mimi using his ultimate there, does shut down the Vox, I believe, but Quarterval is from far away, dropping down the Heliogenesis. And while he's taking care of 2 members here of newbies into the top lane, Defq and Truffles has made the damage and taken down the top tier 3 turret.
Oh, Quarterval on this chase, but will be just taken out because of Oblivion. The
nice.
Cyber definitely making use of the fact that Quarterval do not quite have a reflex block at this point. Oh, Trophies catching out Cyborgs. Oh, but it will be a little too late. But definitely Impunity looking much stronger at this point. Defq can even just go for that goal swing without being afraid of contest, because if a full-blown fight comes out, which might just be happening right now.
Full-blown fight. Is this just a one-man army, son? Check it out. Crow making all the highlight plays here by starting it up for his team and even surviving. That's what you call swag, son. As it seems like the Black Feather will go in a 3v1 situation. The Rose Offensive activated to get into the middle of the fight as Defq tries to heal himself back up once again. Finds the Baron in the midst of it all, shuts him down, and they follow through. Looking aggressive onto Catherine. She doesn't have the damage, she doesn't have the ultimate anymore. No Blast Tremor here to stop them from using all their skills, and that's gonna be the great bait mate ace coming out from Impunity.
Well, we can safely say Defq is the master of dropping these baits down, going in for the 1v4, and then Trophy's joining in later, but even then, just able to pick out those kills, and now in a 1v2 against this Koshka, will Koshka go in for the chase, or the Wolves will just be able to stop, and Koshka picks up one for herself, and will just be left half health, and may just want to look to back off.
They can maybe transition into the Ghost Wing right now just to get that extra fight potential in their arsenal, but it seems like Impunity will not give them time to breathe at all. Blackfeather going a bit too over-aggressive. He did do this a while ago, but that was before he had help from his teammates, and Min shuts him down from the side, making it into a 3v5 situation. But Impunity spots out Lat, does have the Blast Tremor now, and if the members of Newbies wants to make something happen, they might be able to, but it seems like they don't want to go for the fight, they want to go for the split push, and they're going in 3-man squad into the bottom lane against the Vox, and the Vox should go down. Oh my goodness, look at that HP, and he gets taken out by the Malice and Verdict snipe coming out from Cyborg, and a little bit of taste of that own medicine back right at you, said by Newbies.
Oh, the stun do land onto that Cruel. Cruel very, very low. Meme going in with those basic attacks and will be able to score one kill for himself, but Travis now may try to go in for the chase, but there's a wave that's just building up hunger for just very, very hungry for those armories, and Quartervore just doing very well for himself, picking up 1 kill and 2 kills, assisting that of Fortress as well in that mid lane. So the side of Impunity, they responded really well to the split pushing, no doubt, the side of Newbies because of the man advantage, able to get down that bottom tier turret, but it's just not quite, it will not quite affect that of Impunity at the end of it all, with Quartervore just being so strong right now, sitting on, wait, Quartervore has built a Bob Needle.
Oh yeah. Well,
Healing from those basic attacks must be working very well for Quartervore right now.
I guess every little bit helps since he didn't build into the Eve of Harvest. It can help, I guess. It could help.
Are we gonna
attack? I actually don't know how much auto attack damage he has.
He's auto attack skill with Crystal, but hey, it is what it is. 8% life steals on those basic attack, plus 12 weapon power. It might just work out. Maybe building into a shift, for all we know. Maybe it's new meta for CP Celeste. I would hope.
Or maybe a Serpent's Mask or something. You never know. All these crazy kids doing their thing.
Well, I'm looking forward as to what that Serpent's Mask or a potential shift will do for Quartervore, but at this point, Impunity looking very strong. Travis goes in for the 1v3, able to score 1 kill for himself, and now it's just down to Mimi as well. Entire team collapsing onto Travis, and Travis will go down.
But at the opposite side of the spectrum, don't forget that the Black Claw is being manhandled here by Impunity, as 3 members will take it by themselves. And if you think about it as well, that's not really a huge respawn timer for the Fortress and the Black Feather, like 20 seconds in both of them. So in about 15 seconds, that Black Claw might have 5 members of Impunity pushing from this right behind him. Quartervore seems to try to make the zone happen. Celeste is really one of those heroes that you gotta be careful with because her poking potential is just that insane. You can get caught out by the supernovas of her heliogenesis, and look at that, it's like taking candy from a baby. That tier 3 turret takes out the boomerang and it smashes right into the spine of the Catherine, and she will get disabled from that one. So
disabled, but Quartervore now may be chased on taking basic attack from that of NQ Min, but not quite doing much. I mean, can you have Frenzy blocked out, and now Aimeme in a very dangerous position, Solar Storm as well.
Ooh, it's gonna be so close, but the Vox! The Vox!
Just looked at Ing just going ham on those basic attacks, so people may favor that of CP Vox, but Ing definitely showing that a weapon Vox would work as well.
Man, he was just swimming in all of that damage and still able to keep himself alive while at the same time getting all the kills that he needs. And
okay, never mind. Never mind.
He sold his.
Yeah, he did sell it. So it is whatever. It is boo. But hey, sticking closer to the mesa this time. Hey, I see that Mad Scientist Solar Storm comes out not quite connecting on anyone, but Deathdew with those basic attacks slow may just able to catch someone out, but the side of newbies will back up.
It seems like right now Impunity are preparing for that last push. What they're trying to do for the meantime is, like we keep saying again, is to just control the waves onto the side lanes, and then the lane that they want to push, they push it so that every single lane will be pushing in their favor. This Vox shouldn't be able to survive! But what the heck just happened there? Was able to do so, although Aimeme able to leap, pounce, whatever you want to call it, get that last shot, but Cordovois has put the fear into the eyes of newbies here as he is just bombarding them from downtown, from far away with the Heliogenesis. Doesn't have his ultimate, or he has his ultimate, but he's not using it just yet. And all he has to do is pop out the supernovas. Look at Min's HP from 100 to 30, and this Celeste is just going, proving that she's the best. Oh my goodness, 13 to 33.
Well, they say this is the Storm Queen's rise, but I reckon this is the Star Queen's. Instead, Deathdew still jumping onto NQ Min right now, maybe trying to score that ace. Whoa!
He got that ace. There you go, and that's gonna be that's gonna be game number 2 here for Impunity, guys, as they batter down onto the remnants of the base of newbies, and really a really good fought match for newbies there. But Impunity, their decision making was just really on point.
Well, definitely. I mean, yep, and to correct myself, for the early part when we were talking about that possible shift or that Serpent's Mask, it is just that vampirism, the new word for lifesteal, works for both CP and WP, and thus Quarter4 actually built that Barb Needle. However, I personally don't think that it's quite economical as compared, but of course you get a lifesteal anyway. So good game, well played to both Impunity and newbies, and Impunity definitely looking a lot more polished in this one compared to the previous match.
Alright, so to give us even further analysis, knowledge, breakdown, we're gonna pass it to Minimiter and I Request a Duel, so guys, you know what to do.
Thank you for that, Azurai and Luxuria. As we see on the replay, that was a bit of BM from Crawl. He went basically into the base. He doesn't care about turrets, doesn't care about any of that. Just going to take down the kills and then go on to the Vein Crystal. And yeah, as Luxuria said, it's kind of an idea that came up before to get a Barb Needle on Crystal Power Heroes, because Vaporism works with Weapon and Crystal, but it's really just there for a mid-game power spike. It's definitely not recommended unless you know what you're doing, you know your team want to fight. But it did work out pretty well for them, I request Jill.
Yeah, I think you could see, once again, fairly similar, I guess, match where newbies, they put up a good fight, but just weren't able to find the objectives. Whenever an objective was being taken, it seemed to be that of Impunity. They took the first Black Claw and then into Ghost Wing, and from there just were able to slowly break down the base, and eventually, even if they didn't get the ace in that situation, I believe they would have been able to turn their attention to the Crystal and take it down, even though the Idris was still left standing. So overall, fairly similar game between the first and second matchup, and I think that for newbies, really putting up a great fight. As I said, they just need to work on objective taking, their rotations and map pressure, where Impunity might be looking a bit shaky today. I'm not sure what to think. what do you have to say about it? Do you think newbies put up a good enough fight, and that's why Impunity wasn't shining as we usually see them?
Yeah, I think in the second game, Impunity played really well. They really tried to make sure it was as clean as possible of a victory. But in the first game, I do think it was just newbies. They played really well. They knew when to fight, and they took team fights and won them, which is something that isn't to do with your map awareness or 5v5 knowledge. That's just pure mechanical skill that newbies had the ability to win team fights against Impunity. So that was really why they were able to do that, and why it looked in the first game like it was going to be a really close battle. But in the second game, Impunity did play an awful lot better. It was a lot cleaner. They didn't give up as much as they did in the first game. So I'm impressed with newbies.
Yeah, I also think Impunity in that second game, much improved draft there. They had a lot more CC in their kit, a lot more poke, especially you could see the obvious example. Once again, MVP in both games, I'd have to say, Cordova doing a lot of work on that Sky the first match and into Celeste for the second. And you had heroes to go alongside that, such as the Black Feather I saw doing a lot of split pushing, being able to sustain himself, and overall just a good roster of heroes that they had going into that second match with available poke and CC.
Yeah, Cordova definitely making some plays in the first game, and in that second game did play extremely well. Lots of damage, lots of sustain as well, because it brought an Eve at the end of the game, and that's just so hard to burst through with someone like a Koshka who was meant to be diving into the backline. That is it for the second game. Renegades and Impunity are both undefeated so far. Impunity taking that series 2-0 in the end. And the next game we've got for you is Boom Esports against Apple Esports. Really not sure which team is going to take this, but it's going to be an exciting game for you guys to watch. Don't go anywhere. See you soon.
The jungle in Sovereign's Rise is home to a whole new set of terrifying monsters with powerful game-changing effects. The Gold Treant is a big jungle monster that grants a large amount of gold when killed. It is best to tackle it with an ally, since both heroes will be given a substantial amount of gold. The Weapon Treant is a special jungle monster that grants a temporary buff to the hero who lands the killing blow. This buff increases all weapon damage that the hero deals and adds a slow to their basic attacks. If the buffed hero is killed, a red orb drops onto the battlefield, granting the buff to the next hero who walks across it. The Crystal Treant is a special jungle monster that grants a temporary buff to the hero who lands the killing blow. This buff increases all crystal damage that the hero deals and also heals the hero for a portion of that damage. If the buffed hero is killed, a blue orb drops onto the battlefield, granting the buff to the next hero who walks across it. Understanding the jungle's inhabitants and what they have to offer can give you the edge you need to achieve victory. See you on the Rise. Sovereign's Rise is home to two terrifying dragons, Blackclaw and Ghostwing. Ghostwing arrives early in the match. When she's about to land, a circle fills on the minimap, indicating that she will arrive soon on Sovereign's Rise. If she is defeated in battle, the team will earn her favor and be granted a powerful buff that provides a regenerating barrier, health, and energy when out of combat. This gives the team a huge advantage in fights, so make sure to group up and engage the enemy to make the best use of the buff that Ghostwing grants. Blackclaw arrives later in the game. When he is about to land, a circle fills on the minimap, indicating that his descent is imminent. Blackclaw's swipes slice through nearby heroes, and his fire breath roasts anyone who comes too close. The team that manages to defeat Blackclaw in battle gains his loyalty, causing him to rampage down the middle lane, attacking structures and enemies standing in his way. You can either escort Blackclaw down the lane to help pave a way to the enemy base, or use him as a distraction and focus on the two side lanes. Making use of the two dragons is absolutely crucial in Sovereign's Rise. You should understand what they do and how to best utilize their gifts if you want to achieve victory. Good luck and see you on the Rise! On Sovereign's Rise, the Vein Crystal is equipped with its own defenses and fights back against enemies who approach it. Its first attack launches a salvo of missiles that locks onto heroes, damaging and slowing them, while its second attack fires a line of explosions that damages and stuns heroes standing in its way. The crystal is also surrounded by shields. As long as all three shields remain, the crystal is impervious to damage. However, destroying the armories that surround the Vein Crystal removes the shields, making the crystal susceptible to attack. Armories are new structures surrounding the Vein Crystals in Sovereign's Rise. They are responsible for powering the Vein Crystal's defenses. When an enemy armory is destroyed, it grants your allied minions in its respective lane a boost, giving them more damage against enemy minions and structures, and reducing the damage they take from heroes. Additionally, every armory that is destroyed strips its Vein Crystal of some of its shielding, making it vulnerable to attack. Targeting the armories makes it easier to push into the enemy base and claim a victory. You can change a hero's appearance and experience their alternate fates with skins. Skins can be purchased with ice in the market, won from chests, or you can craft them. To craft a skin, you must discover that skin's blueprint and collect enough essence to unlock it. Crafting costs vary based on the skin's rarity. Blueprints will be rewarded for completing quests. If you find a blueprint that you don't need, you can destroy it to collect a bunch of essence. Duplicate blueprints are automatically destroyed. Duplicate skins received from chests will transform into opals, which can be used to buy special edition skins in the market. That's it! You're well on your way to Skintimidation.
The time of the Summer Queens is past. The time of the Star Queens has not yet come. Against the coming churn storm, there can only be a Storm Queen. And yet, they come with technology and terror, with shields and armor, blades and bows, magic arcane and unholy, with the power of lightning and even of stars to take my dragon. When the churn swallows their homes, then they will kneel!
Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Welcome back to the show matches from Southeast Asia. My name is Minimiter, and joining me to talk about this final game of the day, once again, I request Jewel.
Yes, hello. We have the final matchup for week 3, day 1, I believe. 5v5 show matches. That being Boom Esports going up against Apple Esports. And as you said before we went into break, it's going to be tough to call on this one as to which team is going to come out victorious. But I really liked what I saw with Apple Esports in the VG8, whether they've been able to, and that's really the question with a lot of these teams here, whether they're able to translate their skill and pick up and practice the new mechanics of 5v5, such as map rotation and pressure.
Yeah, one thing we definitely see from the top teams, from Renegades and Impunity, is if they get that early game lead, they will snowball it into a late game 10k gold lead, get 3 dragons, and then it's pretty much GG from there. But one thing that we see from other teams that aren't quite as practiced is they might get a lead, but then the team that's ahead is going to bounce back and forward between both of the teams. The one team will be ahead, then the other team gets a kill, next team gets a turret, other team gets a ghost wing. And that's something that really separates the top teams from the not quite as good teams. So I'm very excited to see if one of these teams is going to be able to get that lead and snowball it, as opposed to just getting a lead and then maybe not quite not pressuring as much as they can.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the thing if it's going to be an even matchup. We've seen comebacks before where you can, as long as your crystal is still standing, you can really turn anything around. I think, however, in 5v5, it's a lot more difficult as soon as the armories are down, because that puts a lot more pressure and focus that you have to put in a certain lane. Also makes it a lot more easy for the enemy to just go into your base and take your crystals down, reminding you that the more armories, or the less armories you have, I should say, the weaker your crystal will be, so the quicker they should be able to backdoor that or even just siege it.
Yeah, generally it works out. If you lose one armory, you can come back from that, provided within the next couple of minutes you get your own armory of the enemy team. If you lose one armory and then the game just resets for a couple of minutes, then you're going to be in a bad position, because you have to be constantly porting home, defending your waves, and you just can't contest the dragons, and they're going to be pretty much taken for free. But if you're 2 armories behind, or even 3, it's really, really tough. The enemy team has to make a big mistake for you to be allowed to come back into it, because even if you win a team fight, your next goal is, right, we've got to push these 2 lanes. And so it's really tough. Once 2 armories go down, try and come back in. But we are loading into Sovereign's Rise for the first game between Boom Esports and Apple ID. Casters, take it away.
And take it we shall, as it seems like we're gonna start aggressive here. But before that, my name is Aster, and of course, joining me now for this best of 2 series is gonna be Riku.
That's slight delay, but yeah, I'm super awkward, but it's fine. And again, they're starting off with an aggressive stance against Deity Stars here. Luckily, he survives, but at this point, it's all about defending your initial buff takes, as scout cams are being placed aggressively here and there at the Riverside most especially. But Deity Stars might not get a crystal buff start due to this aggressive Boom Esports prioritization at the enemy blue buff.
3-man rotation, something that we haven't seen fully yet made by other teams. I mean, they will, but it's kind of like 2 people rotating per lane, and Drug Apple's not gonna have any chance at all to get that last hit. No heal from the tree end, so this could be a free-for-all dive coming in. Nice connection from the Rhyme, gonna be able to slow down the Idris, and they take away a first blood while only being all 3 of them as level 1s.
Brilliant rotation from Boom Esports, so flawless. From the enemy side of the jungle, they took away the healing trend and the crystal buff so early, and they rotated to their own jungle, taking the weapon buff for themselves as well. And because of that quick rotation, Apple Esports wasn't able to try to reduce their damages by responding the same thing by going to the enemy top side jungle side, because it was heavily guarded by the side of Boom Esports, so they kind of expected that sort of play. And there's also considering the fact that level 1 fights may not be in their favor due to their composition, and because of Boom Esports' understanding of how they're strong during the early phases of the game, and that's why, you know, they're brave enough to do that sort of strategy.
Yeah, 100% on that. There's no real counter-engage potential here coming out from Apple ID, although they do have some early game pressure as well, since they do have the Ozo pickup, but we won't be seeing that in a bit. I mean, we might see it, but it depends on where he's gonna rotate, and it seems like it might be the top lane, as maybe someday could be in a very bad spot. 3v3 situations should be happening, but this Ringo does not have any mobility skills, as we know, and he will get taken, blown up quite easily. Guilty Crown was stopped by the stun connection of the Kambengs here, but still, that is one kill going into the arsenal, or into the pockets of Boom Esports. And from mid lane to top lane, here comes the Samuel, netting another kill once again for Boom.
Good response there. Quite overextended by Roasty Toasty, and he immediately got punished. Not only that, as they got another kill, that means Roasty Toasty's buff has been taken away as well. So, with Boom Esports' early game start, I'm very, very impressed on how they're not hesitating at all. They definitely know what their strengths are, and at this point, they're choking resources so early for Apple Esports that it may be difficult for them to try and get a good footing here. But take it away, Asteroid. There's them, Paint Sandy, actually escaping from that one.
Yeah. Actually, you did all of it, but it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I thought, I'm like, number.
Yeah, but still, I mean, all of that, I would say counter jungling coming out from the side here of Apple ID, or rather from Boom Esports, is actually much more worth, because this is 3 members of Apple ID rotating onto 1 or even 2 people, and because they rotated late enough, they weren't able to get the last hit on those camps, which again spawn 100 to 120 seconds after. So all the gold still goes into the pocket of Boom Esports, while at the same time they got the XPs already, and at that particular time as well, they're kind of forcing Apple ID to rotate to them, leaving the lanes much easier for the laners to actually keep the farm up. And well, it does seem to be a little bit of the case, but maybe someday is having a lot of difficulty getting last hits in this top lane.
Exactly. We were talking about it time and time again on how you create hot spots for yourself. And because of Roasty Toasty's constant pressure and painful damage on towards the Baron, it just really forces Boom Esports to respond at the top side of the map. There are previous games that we see that bot lane is where it's at, but this time around it's different. This is where it's at.
This is where it's at indeed, and they will get the kill on maybe someday. But into the bottom lane we go. Drug Apple will get blown up as he was caught by the Spire of the Rhyme there, and this could be a transition into the top tier 1. Look at that, lots of itsy bitsy damage, but everything helps, and it seems like he might be in a very bad spot. But as Baby here comes back to give him a little bit of support, they immediately back away, and no way for Apple ID here to get that early turret for themselves. It's gonna be actually Boom on the bottom lane who actually got the first tower of the turret of the game.
Yeah, Apple Esports really forced to make things happen as they've lost their bot lane turret. So they want to make things even, maybe make a pick, maybe get some resources at their jungle side, but they weren't able to do so as Baron has already spawned. So I was about to bring up how it's 2 birds in 1 stone. Actually, if they put their resources at the top side of the map, hold that thought, there's a fight. And
it's done. But check this out. Item-wise, the Kambengs on the Grace is building weapon power Grace. Sorrow Blade as his first weapon. He is gonna hit that mace like it's what it's supposed to do, like a true mace. And the captain, or so to speak, the support here for Boom Esports will be the Fortress. I mean, it's not too bad. I think I kind of prefer that even further, because I feel like the Grace has more damage potential than the Fortress, and Fortress will be just the true utility here for Boom. So we'll just see how it actually transpires for this A side team.
It's great that you pointed it out because Boom Esports is definitely working around that sort of strategy. They're very aggressive early game. They manage to finish off targets here and there, and it just slows the ramp of certain lanes that are important for Apple Esports, and they're doing the right thing. Just push on with their lead, and ignore the turret. It's fine. Let's just all dive into Roasty Me Toasty.
And even though they dive, they still have, the possibility of this Grace, who even though he has weapon power, still has some base heal stats on that Divine Intervention. So if they have one person who's low in HP, activate intervention, they should be fine. But it seems like there's going to be a two-man rotation into the top lane. Apple ID is not going to have a lot of players to work with, and this could be not to go into their favor. Roasty Me Toasty did not rotate enough in time, and he might be another casualty here in the 2-kill war of Boom Esports. Could be a 3, but it seems it's only going to be the 2. Ooh,
he decided to go for the Hellfire Brew rather than landing some autos, but he changed his mind, get dove upon rather, and Roasty Me Toasty manages to eliminate the Diving Grace.
And are they gonna continue this fight? Looks like that's gonna be a no. 1-4, I would say, 2 exchange, not really too bad. And at the opposite side of the spectrum, a solo Ghost Wing for the Rhyme. And he's gonna go aggressive onto this Idris. Does he have enough potential to be able to do so? There is the shield Valkyrie used, but it's just too good of a micro-management here, micro-engagement coming out from Drug Apple.
Indeed. Solo, if that's a solo Ghost Wing, it just shows that most likely they kind of lack vision. Again, their primary focus, I believe there's like 3-4 skirmishes that happened already just so that they could finish this turret and shove down the waves. But at this point, mission accomplished time and time again. Mid lane also getting a little bit of poke here and there by Deity Stars on that Vox. So it's working out in their favor for Apple Esports at this point of the game.
But it seems like there's going to be a little bit of a tussle here. Guilty Crown will be just leaping on to their opponents. And Pain Sandy is in a world of hurt. But oh my goodness, maybe someday he's been bullied too much into the top lane. So he's going to try to bring it back here with Apple ID. As they have a 4-man rotation, they'll be able to claim victories left and right. The Kambangs, since he doesn't have any tankiness with this Grace, gotta be very careful here. But as Niels tries to hold his hand, tries to give him much support, they will be able to bring back at least that 1 kill. But Apple ID still claim 3, although Niels right here is looking deep into the jungle, into Guilty Crown, into Delphire, but he is looking for Guilty Crown. Will someone intercept? Looks like that's gonna be a no, but wait, hold that thought. He's gonna be porting into the brush. Nobody knows he's there, and he's gonna be able to escape.
Oh, the jukes are real. I honestly thought that was the end for Ozo, but great job on disengaging there for Apple Esports. And Idris at this point already has done his mission, while everybody else was busy at the top and mid side of the jungle of Boom Esports. It was Idris doing the damage at the bot side of the map. So in terms of structures being taken down, obviously Apple Esports have already gotten a good footing in this game. So we'll see. You can tell that they're very aggressive. They're looking for the fights. They're looking for the picks. So as to transition it for another objective, as they're lingering around this riverside, but there's so much vision from Boom Esports, defensive vision, if you will, to spot out really aggressive plays from Apple Esports.
Niels is absorbing quite a bit of damage. I think that Valkyrie also hit Deity Stars, so he's got to be very careful. But Pain Sandy had to back away as he was very low on HP. That Oblivion, as well as the Iron Cannon, was so damn good that he was able to zone out while at the same time damaging other members there of Apple ID. But they gotta be worrisome because that Vox almost disintegrated 2 of their members, but it was not enough. So at least that gives a little bit of an edge here for Boom Esports. They know that Delphire and Roasty Me Toasty is into the top lane, and they might actually try to block out their exit path here and look for some kills as it, oh my goodness, Kambangs just obliterate the HP of Delphire there. Does have the Vanguard, but it's not really going to be enough. And this is a 4-man stack by Silver Boom, or rather Boom Esports rather, and Roasty Me Toasty could be in a very pained situation here, although he does find the Grace.
Finds the Grace indeed, and 1 kill after another turret destroyed by Boom Esports, but a lot of members from Apple is so healthy and painful. Ozo and Ringo rather, just finished off a couple of kills against Boom Esports, punishing how they've been overextending. And knowing the fact, I mean, I understand why they did that, as they know that a couple of members have been invested at the bot side of the map just so that they can shove the waves. Baby is down, and he's goners. Oh my, lots of damage coming from Apple Esports.
Lots of damage indeed. This Ozo is proving to play a little bit like a Koshka, that he just dips in and out of the fight and provides so much damage early on into the game, and it's really making it difficult for Boom Esports to counteract him. And now, I think for this game there is that first gold advantage for Apple for Apple ID, and they were able to get the Ghost Wing as well. Might transition into the Black Claw, but it's not yet respawned. So where are they gonna go? Look for more push into the turrets that they can? Well, we'll just have to see.
Exactly. I mean, when you do have the Ghost Wing buff, and you know that you have the damage advantage, more likely you would want to look for a fight, and they have caught out Delphi here at the side.
Delphi will be caught out indeed, but he is an Arden, so he should be fine. And Dandy, look at this Ozo 3v1 situation, and just making it super difficult for Boom Esports to make anything happen. The Baron can deal the damage, but the problem is he cannot find that potential, that space for him to actually get the auto attacks off. But now, since they are kind of split up here, they gotta be trying to go in. Although this Vox is making it really difficult, the Resonance is just hitting every single member, chipping down Boom Esports one after the other. And after the dust has settled, 5 members of Apple ID are still alive, and only 1 to remain in the Boom side.
Wow, I mean, this is a totally different game. Normally when we see the other sets of matches, after that fight, you would see someone in the sides just split pushing. But this time around, this match, Boom Esports versus Apple, it's practically team 5v5, clash in the mid, clash somewhere else. It's actually pretty interesting how they're approaching this, because it's understandable. They do have the Ghost Wing buff. They know that they're ahead in damage. Might as well, take it for a spin, take it for a ride, and then you transition to objectives afterwards. Then now they're shoving down the waves, because they know that they have control at this point in our 15-14 minute game, and they're playing this really well. I know Boom Esports had the gold lead earlier, and their rotations were very, very impressive, that it was hard for Apple to actually catch up. But due to the gold swing and the Ghost Wing buff from earlier, just made them push for more active team fights, if you will, on the side of Apple Esports.
But what's kind of interesting here is that for I think a few minutes there was that level advantage for the members of Baron, or rather from Brand Esports, or rather from Boom Esports. There you go. But it doesn't really matter, because there's just so much sticking potential here from Apple Esports, and they are making it so difficult for Boom to do what they do, which is make things go boom. And look at this, there's another leap in coming from Guilty Crown, and he is just crowning himself as that initiator, that disruptor that Apple Esports need to keep the advantage rolling.
Oh, shields up, and Niels will be isolated on the members of Apple Esports. He falls. A lot of low health members from Apple Esports, so I'm not quite sure what the game plan is. It looks like they're gonna go for the retreat, respect the damage and how healthy Pain Sandy and Baby is at this point, but they're transitioning to the Black Claw. They don't mind the Ghost Wing at this point, because they know that resources, members are lacking still to be able to contest this one, and no vision from Boom as well.
And 16 minutes into the game, they get themselves that Black Claw, and it's going to be very, very difficult here for Boom Esports to, I think, chip this down. They only have the Baron, really, and maybe the Grace for the right-click damage, or rather for the auto-attack damage. And, well, it's going to get pushed through as well with the other members of Apple Esports, so they got to be super careful. Look at that damage. Hellfire Brew chipping down on 3 members with maximum effect. There's going to be Delphi putting the Vanguard and Painsan is gonna go aggressive here, but the Gauntlet will push him away for the meantime. And while that is happening, this is still only 4 members of Apple Esports actually in the mid lane. Into the top lane, there's gonna be the Vox creating a wave, creating some pressure into the, another lane for Apple to work with. And look at this, Guilty Crown dove in by his lonesome. And maybe this is a little bit too over aggro here by Apple Esports, as there is 4 kills already coming out from Boom Esports. I mean, it looked like they were supposed to get the win, but it didn't happen.
I think Apple Esports did a good job with that 4-1. Knowing that, you know, let's just let the Vox split push at top. And they did a pretty good job in taking down at least the turret. Maybe not the armory, but it's fine. So they managed to capitalize that well. And because of their, you know, that sort of almost ace, at least when they die, it's just going to be the Ghostwing getting taken down and not a Black Claw at this point, which I think they still have enough damage to pierce through this buff against Boom Esports whenever they go into the fight. Or they can manage. That's the difference, because you can choose not to fight if you know the enemy squad has a Ghostwing, but on the other hand, you are forced to fight a Black Claw. So that's a different dynamic that, you know, that's what's interesting about VG 5v5.
Yeah, different dynamic indeed, because it makes it like into a 6v5 situation where you have to take note of the Black Claw because he just deals that much damage in the mid lane, and it proves it. Look at that destruction already. Mid tier 3 turret down, and the armory is almost at the precipice of going down itself. But now there is at least that base advantage, that home advantage that Boom Esports can use here. The gold lead has shrinked already as they were able to take down the Black Claw and 4 kills against the members here of Apple Esports. And, well, I believe with the Baron, you know, stacking up his items already, he should be able to make something happen here. But it's going to be very risky. Although we'll just have to see what transpires right after.
Exactly. We saw how painful the Ion Cannon is whenever they are, you know, some of the members from Apple Esports just clumped into one area, which they're most likely about to do, especially that they want to try to protect their hyper carries at the back line. And for Apple Esports this time around, I guess what they're doing, they're very conservative. They're not going all in because they know that Boom Esports has the Ghostwing buff, so all they have to do is try to shove the waves, be very patient about it, apply good vision control on the side of their jungle so they know where Boom Esports is rotating. And at this point, we might see a fight.
We might see a fight indeed. There should be a good amount of sustain here for the side of Boom Esports, as they have the Samuel, they have the Rhyme, and it seems like it's actually working. The one true thorn in the side here of Boom Esports is that Ozo. If they can deal with him, they can deal with the other members quite easily, and they get themselves 3 for only the Kambangs going down. And Drug Apple, he has to say something about this, comes out from the Baron, but Pain Sandy is going for an aggressive chase. Although it's not really going to be great enough, as he is a CP Idris and the auto attack damage is just that good. But Niels will survive, has enough sustain, and this is what I was talking about.
Good mindset from Boom Esports, and they know that they could take on a fight, especially that Idris was lingering around the mid lane, so which means he was late to the fight. A couple of seconds without Idris, that's minus DPS for your team. So they worked it out pretty well. Boom Esports made the right call, got the timing right. Black Claw in their hands at this point, and it just swung towards their favor.
Yeah, and again, like I said, there's a lot of sustain on the side of Boom Esports, and since this Idris did go for that CP build, he's not in the build path of making a poison shiv to have the mortal wounds, and I think like there's no other mortal wounds here for the side of Apple Esports, so it's gonna be very difficult for them to deal with this. If they can maybe have the Idris, or rather the Vox, connect multiple shots with the Resonance, maybe, but like we saw on that on that previous clash, it really didn't matter. But anyways, there's gonna be a fight right here. Attack on the back activated, and Guilty Crown is in a world of hurt. He can't find anything to actually leap into, and this is just members of Boom Esports bleeding into the base, and they're looking for that last push already. They don't want to take this later on because they might make some mistakes or whatnot, but they still have to respect that Daily Stars is just that painful. But oh my goodness, maybe someday, like I said, on the Baron, is just bursting people down with his artillery, with his barrages, and here might be the first game for the side of Boom Esports. It looked like it was supposed to be for Apple, but they just took a bite out of that and said boom.
That was such a close game. Very impressive calls from Esports to get back into the game from, you know, being behind during the mid phases. And Apple Esports did well on that match, getting back from that early game deficit of goals. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, so we'll transition this to our analyst desk to break it down even further. So guys, what do you think about that one?
Thank you, Azurai and Riku. That was a pretty intense game. 20 kills to 23, I think, 21 to 24. Very, very close game between these two teams. And I think there's a reason why it got so long. But what do you think, Argestial?
Well, it was just really close for a lot of the match. I think that the early game we saw that it was trading objectives, trading kills, and they, prior to the first objective, Ghostwing, being taken by the side of Apple Esports, they were at about 37k gold each, and then from there, Apple Esports, they got Ghostwing, they had the buff with them, they were able to control the waves, control the lanes. I think they got maybe one turret out of it in the mid lane, and it was looking good for them, it really was. They later went on to push in with the Black Claw, but that's where they got over-aggressive. They overstepped themselves, and Boom Esports punished them for it. They only got one turret, and they lost, I believe, 4 members there. And from that point on, it was just Boom Esports, whether they had the confidence they needed or the gold, the economy, to buy the items to catch back up with Apple and turn these fights around. You could also see one key fight being what Asarai mentioned. As soon as the Ozo's out of the fight, it's a winning fight for Boom Esports, more or less. It looked really good on the engagement. Apple went in with the gauntlet, and they rarely separated out the team. It was quite a mess, but that Ozo went down early, and they were able to roll off the back of that. Eventually, we saw that they got their own Black Claw for themselves, and this is really the difference. You asked me why I thought it was close, but then the difference being that Boom Esports got their objectives late game, which, yes, if you're able to make the comeback, is a good idea, because you're able to really push more and get more. You could see the damage they had in their team. They just used Black Claw to just slightly breach the base, and then they pushed through for the win afterwards, because they had the follow-through damage that Apple was lacking in the earlier game trying to finish it out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. And also, on top of it, early game, there was definitely an advantage to Boom Esports. They got the kills early on. They got that bottom turret with the Rhyme. But then once it hit the mid game, Apple Esports had the CP just with Dragon's Eye. He's easily going to be able to 1v1 a Rhyme in his lane. So he got a kill. And in the mid game, that was really when I thought Apple Esports was going to come back and they were going to just do a reverse snowball and make it a pretty easy victory. But they let Boom Esports scale up with that late game weapon power Baron, dealing far too much damage. And so it was just impossible for them to be able to do anything about it. And as you said, Ozo dying so quickly. And I think that Idris should have probably built a Spellfire. It's such a good item. Even though it would have only procced on his Chakram and his ultimate, it's still really effective. Mortal wounds, quite a bit of damage as well. But they decided not to go for it. And it was really impressive from Boom Esports for them to be able to take the dragons at the right time. I often think that Black Claw is often a mistake to just take it, because as you said, they got 4 deaths and they got 1 turret, and the enemy team got a Black Claw, which is 300 gold each, and they got the bounties of those 4 deaths. So it's much better to get Ghostwing if you can, and you only should take Black Claw if you're trying to pretty much win the game.
Well, I think that is what Boom Esports were able to do there at the end. They went and got the Black Claw just to help for the push. They didn't really need it, as you could see. You talked about, especially that weapon power Baron just being so built up that the damage they had, they could push through.
Yep, we are now loading into Sovereign's Rise for the second game of the third match, and possibly the final game. Once again, casters, take it away.
Well, we'll see if this is truly the rise of Boom Esports or the fall of them. We'll just, you know. My name is Asarai, and here with me now is...
Yep. It's Riku. And from the previous match that we witnessed earlier, I'm pretty sure Apple Esports has a good idea that probably Boom Esports will try the same rotation, aggressive rotation, during their level 1s where they're going to be taking away all your buffs and then rotate to their own jungle afterwards. So that 3-man movement is something that most likely Apple Esports is ready, but it all will depend on how strong their level 1 is. But because of, you know, how they respect how painful Boom Esports is at this point, so they're just gonna leave it and just give away the crystal buff and just try to do a last hit steal as a consolation prize. If not, then at least we didn't lose members like the previous game.
Yeah, and this is the first game for today that we're going to be seeing Delphire once again back on his Finn, and on the other side there's going to be the Jewel. And we know that, you know, there is a good counter to the Jewel once he uses the big red button, which is the force accord of this Finn, so maybe that's the reason why he did it. But at the same time, there's a lot of, I would say, close range damage from Boom Esports that could be taken down quite easily by a Finn or engaged upon, but there's going to be the first blood, so there we go.
The punish is real, so it looks like they managed to catch off a Rotato at the bot side of the map. 3 people from Apple Esports already waiting for that to happen, and because of that, they get that early game kill for themselves. And again here, Rona versus the Ardan plus Niels at the top side of the map here on this Gwen. So I expect a very heavy harass for Drug Apple, but he has to be standing strong here as Fortress is rotating at the top side.
Should be alright with the Book of Eulogies. Fortress will try to at least provide a little bit of support here, a little bit of damage onto the Gwen, but they gotta be careful because they still do have that Arden providing, well, on the other side, the Gwen with all the Vanguards that she needs to go for that potential. But as Deity Stars joins in onto the fight, maybe something else might be able to happen here. Body block by Pain Sandy just to make sure that Niels won't take too much more damage from that Malice and Verdict. Well, Deity Stars needs to back off, but he gave a lot of time for Baby here in the mid lane to push the wave and reset it into his own favor and get even more CS as well.
But this actually puts the Vox to rotate down for the revenge. Roasty Me Toasty getting dove upon. Super low at this point. He tries to run, but it won't help him at all. Delphire super low as well, but he's safe under his own turret. Wow.
Guilty Crown should be spotted out here, and the Kambangs can go for that counter jungle potential. Who's gonna get the last hit? It's gonna be very tricky here. Obviously, Guilty Crown would want it. Did he get it? Yes, he did. Ordain activated by the Kambangs, and he will just walk away from that one. Sadly enough, he didn't get the last hit, but it's better for the Fortress that happened.
Man, he's so brave at 2v1ing that buff just to contest that, as, you know, the Jewel is just right there at the bot side of the map, so it's gonna be fine. But going back to how the strategy or how Apple Esports, or rather Boom Esports, adjusted through that, because they know that the Samuel Deity Stars already went topside, but the wave was not shoved in their favor. So this just gives room for a couple of turret, for a wave management in favor of Boom Esports, and then he could rotate down bot. So that was a very safe answer to how people move around the map, especially how Apple Esports decides to go topside. And meanwhile, Kambangs tried to rotate to get the crystal buff again, but, you know, Apple Esports is a step ahead of them.
Step ahead of him indeed. And after that little tussle into the top, well, Drug Apple has been doing quite well in keeping himself alive. He has brought up in the first Book of Eulogies and followed up with Light Armor just to make sure that he can absorb the damage of the Gwen this early on. And this is what sometimes, you know, people, even pros, kind of forget, is that it's worth not to get your first damage item and buy one cheap defense item just to make sure that you survive in the lane or in the skirmishes.
Exactly, and, you know, mid lane, one of the most dangerous lanes, as you have got the enemies could come from 2 different directions, and at this point mid lane is in trouble. But looking at Deity Star is super low. He's still a-okay as Delphire is trying to walk away. That's one of the downsides of Finn. Look how slow he's walking. He's like strutting his stuff and just landing and eating some hits. He went the long way around as well.
Oh wow, they still get it.
Oh my.
1 inch out from the range, I believe. And aside from that, I think the reason why the Finn was really that slow, if I'm not mistaken, is that his trait converts disables to slows. So instead of being stunned or anything else, he will get slowed. So that's why he was moving, well, that slowly.
Quite slow, but
Yeah.
look at that dive from Boom Esports. Very,
Massive
very
full dive.
aggressive, but it works really well in their favor as they're gonna push this turret. I wonder what Apple Esports is gonna respond to this, as they invested resources at the bottom side for going instead.
They did do that, but maybe some they kind of sacrifice themselves so that they won't be able to start the Ghost Swing as early. This might give enough time for Boom Esports to rotate there, but at the same time, Apple Esports here kind of thought it's a little bit too dangerous, so maybe let's back off, but then they decided, no, let's get back in, hope to get something happening right here. But as the Vox joins in onto the bottom lane, well, they might get catched off, and the Kambangs, as you can see, he knows that is happening. Doesn't have his Fearsome Shade though, but he can go for the Bad Mojo Steal, maybe? Let's see. Oh, he doesn't.
The timing's right, but he's getting out by Roasty Me Toasty, zoning him pretty well, but looks like the other big red button actually being activated by maybe someday.
And Deity Stars stacked up quite a bit of good multiple damage there with his Malice and Verdict. And who did get that crystal power buff? It's gonna be Deity Stars. That's gonna amp up his Malice and Verdict even further. But at the same time, this is just good rotations and punishes coming out from Apple Esports.
Look at that, a lot of low health members from Boom Esports. Let's see if they manage to be able to get a pick, but Roasty Me Toasty is still after that turret at this point, and Niels is getting dove upon, and he has no escape whatsoever.
Indeed. Such an easy target that Gwen is without the support of the Arden or anyone else from her team. And like you said, there was a take on that bottom tier 1, but it should be a counter with Drug Apple trying to split push by himself. Doesn't have his items yet, but I believe he does have the money to be able to buy it. He just doesn't buy it yet. And into the mid lane, there could be a lot of action. Delphi already has his ultimate up and running, and only one member of Boom Esports has a reflex block, and that was the Vox. So this could be quite an easy force accord for Delphi. There it is, goes in with the Quibble, and the damage from Apple Esports ensues, and that's what we're talking about. The Gauntlet should have come out, but they were able to blow up the Arden before it comes through, and Niels rotated from the top to the mid. Might have even get caught there, but he was at least turret hugging into the mid tier 2, but that will leave this mid tier 1 for easy taking by Apple Esports.
That was a beautiful forced accord to an Oblivion, so that hit like 2 members. Good block by Baby, but they're so low at this point. The Samuel so much with the pokes, and at this point it's Boom Esports on the defense, as a lot of waves are shoved in favor of Apple Esports, and because of that, a lot of map control, a lot of resource taking in terms of base here for Apple Esports. And at this point, it's just them with Roasty Me Toasty, a headache split pusher. Time and time again, we've witnessed how I think it was called the Roasty Rotations, I think.
Yeah, I think that was Luxuria. Was that? Oh, no, you're the one who said.
Oh, right.
How could you forget?
How could I forget my own? I don't know.
I don't know.
Pain Sandy joining Baby at this point.
And well, he should be able to get away from this one. Guilty Crown as well as members. I mean, you know what that feeling when you play the crane machine and you only get the 1 stuffed toy, but then Delphi makes it into 2 stuffed toys. That's a pretty damn good feeling, ladies and gentlemen. But now Boom Esports gonna go with a 3-man rotation here, and Delphi might be in a very pickle of a situation as Guilty Crown trying to give him a little bit of support, sidesteps the Fearsome Shade, but he can't really do too much, trying to run away. And it seems like he's gonna use the attack of the pack, as he knows that Roasty Me Toasty has so much damage. The Ring God incarnated going in with the auto attacks, and he is just dealing all the damage, son. Maybe someday to come through as well to hope to provide a little bit of holding hand potential there. But Oblivion comes through. They zone him into the embracing arms of Deity Star Z as well as Drug Apple. And Pain Sandy shouldn't be able to get away from this one. Look at the range on that Malice and Verdict as well.
Wow. And there was no exchange whatsoever on the map because Boom Esports invested so much for that fight. They tried they chased towards the river already, and that took a while. And it's only Vox that try to shove the wave in their favor at the top side of the map while all of that was happening. But it's still a repairable mistake. Not a mistake, a repairable thing where it's not as pressured there at the top side of the map. But again, death timers are still quite short, and they don't suffer as much. But Ghost Wing is in the hands of Apple Esports, so that'll give them a lot of team fighting potential whenever they enter into these fights.
Pain Sandy was able to buy up his Crucible already, so at least Reflex Block for the entire team is available. So no more easy Force Accord for the Finn here, unless he maybe buys up into an Echo. We'll just see, because that's also one of the items that I've seen other Finns do after they buy up into their standard tank items. But in any case, it seems like Boom Esports don't want to go for the fight just yet. They're kind of afraid of that maybe pick-off potential. And, well, I think, like you said, the Ghost Wing buff still in the other members of Apple Esports.
Exactly. So I'm thinking they might just want to farm up their jungle, just try to pick up the crumbs. Obviously, some of the buffs already been taken by Apple Esports while they were down. And that's a little bit of a problem for Boom Esports, as they have been they're struggling at the moment. But you can see that, you know, this matchup has been very back and forth, and it showed during the previous game that we saw. But, you know, they still have the buff, and that's why they're very reserved in making these aggressive calls. So they're on the defense at this point. There's Roasty Me Toasty already battering down the top lane turret, at the second tier top lane turret, while 4 people are battering the mid lane.
And indeed, and Delphire is just absorbing so much damage. He sucks them all in, but that gauntlet also makes it very difficult here for Apple Esports to make anything happen. This Ringo's going to be able to take down this top tier 3 before the Jewel maybe shuts him down, but as they kind of overcommitted into that turret, they got immediately punished, and they lose 3, maybe even a third. That's going to happen there, but Ringo into the top lane gets that tier 3.
So 2 turrets in exchange for 3 lives on the side of Apple Esports. I guess Apple Esports decides to take it. It's fine. But Boom Esports, once again, trying to get a consolation prize. Maybe get the Samuel as another... try to take a pick on the Samuel. Neil's actually hunting for Deity Stars. We'll see if they're going to be successful in this one.
They might be able to, but the problem is he still has his sustain with him, but it's not going to matter at all. Journey Boots was activated by Drug Apple. He has the move speed boost, and he's just going to leap in. Spin to win. Let it rip. He doesn't even need to. All he needs is to smash, and he will be able to crash in onto his opponents. Is the Ghost Wing available once again for the taking? Looks like a no. And, well, it's almost only 14 minutes in, so that Black Claw is not yet up for the taking as well.
Man, that just leaves Apple Esports taking more resources and resetting their jungle again for themselves. And Roasty Me Toasty has his entourage already with him. He's not solo split pushing anymore. He has his team with him. And Baby will just try to play safe and defend behind the turret and not flank from the sides. Though I wonder if it's going to be enough. Looks like they're scaring Apple Esports away as Roasty Me Toasty with the bounce from the Vox. Super painful at this point.
Super painful indeed. Big red button onto their behinds as they go front aggressive here. And, oh no, the dog will be sent to the pound. And it seems like Boom Esports are starting to rack up in terms of the damage. There is good sustain here for the side of Apple Esports. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more damage coming out from Boom Esports.
Exactly. Roasty was also isolated in the previous flash, and there was no way he could protect himself from like 3 members diving into him. And target prioritization from Boom Esports, targeting and isolating important key members from the side of Apple Esports just really makes them win these fights. And with maybe someday already done with the big red button, and we'll see Delphire finding that position for a good pickoff. But shoves, lanes are being pressured at the side, so Boom Esports is really forced to back away. But then we'll see, that's 2 members invested here, and that's 5. They should be very careful and probably just give this away to Apple Esports.
Apple Esports was able to get that Ghost Wing and even a cherry on top, the Arden taken away And now, with 30 seconds free of the Arden, there's no more threat of the Gauntlet, so now Apple Esports can just keep on rolling through. This tier 3 is so low in HP. There is the big red button activated, and she just unloads into every single one, but they have enough sustain, enough tankiness to be able to keep on fighting. 60 seconds still to that Force Accord of Delphi. He's very low in HP, so he just stood back away. And Roasty Me Toasty is just going with his Ring God, taking down the members left and right, gets 2 kills. The Gwen does shut him down as well, but it might be just a little too late. And is this gonna be a 1-for-1 in our best of 2? We don't see this every day, ladies and gentlemen. But now the only true defenders of this base is gonna be the Kambangs as well as Pain Sandy. And can they do this? 2v4, very low into the HPs of Apple Esports, and he is just throwing out the bad mojo, resisted on that stun, but still the damage is coming out through. There's the Gauntlet activated. Gilchikran has to play around this arena, but look at this. Drug Apple is just going for the dirty work, and he is just hitting, battering, breaking this Vein Crystal, and that's gonna be a 1-for-1 in this best of 2.
Insane! I remembered how Roasty already got the other armories. That's 2 armories down, just making the Vein Crystal super squishy. So GGWP, that was a very close fight, and Apple Esports manages to make the series 1-1.
That one mistake on the losing the Arden really broke it for Boom Esports. Yeah. But all right, but anyways, we're gonna be giving it away to our analyst desk, so you beautiful gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you for that. And in the end, it was a 1-to-1 between Boom Esports and Apple Esports. Not something that we've seen for a while. What a thrilling game. Teleport boot plays so many times from Rona and from Ringo.
Yep, and we did say this was going to be the game that we can't really put a number to. We couldn't say, oh, this team or this team is going to win. It was really close, and in that first match, you saw how Apple, they had the early game, then Boom came back in the late. It looked like it was going to be a repeat of that, where Apple had the early game, and then Boom, well, Apple had already pushed up to the tier 3 turrets of Boom Esports, and they didn't really have much to do, but they pushed back, and it looked like Boom would do the same as they did in the first match. However, Apple, then they won one team fight, is all they needed. They got the Ghost Wing, they pushed into the base off the back of that, and you can see that there's very smart plays and decision making that had to be made that is so crucial when pushing into that base. The decision to take the double armory, I think if they had not done, the Vein Crystal would have had too much defense and the respawns would have come up. So I think that final push is just so clutch and so well thought out by Apple Esports. Really well deserved win, and both these teams just played very well today. Put up a great show match indeed.
Yeah, so with taking down all 3 armories, the Vein Crystal actually goes to 0 defense in 5 versus 5. So that's really effective for someone like a Rona, who has tons of damage, who just, if there's no defense on the Vein, you're going to shred through that Vein Crystal. And Samuel, with just the very last verdict before, he would have no doubt been body blocked and probably been unable to take the Vein. So yeah, it was a really good decision to take down the armories. And they'd obviously set that up beforehand by taking the turrets down early on in the game. Ringo split pushing up in the top lane, allowing them to actually take the armories when they got that advantage. And it was just, when I saw Arden go towards the Ghost Wing to try and, I guess, steal it, it was obviously a mistake from Arden. Like, if you go as a captain against 5 members, you're not going to steal it, because it's not as easy as Kraken where you can one punch, because the health bar of the Ghost Wing is a lot harder to see when it's going to be one hit from dead. And so it was just a suicide mission from Arden. Yes, his ally managed to get away, but from that one play, it gave pretty much a free win.
Yeah, well, I think unless you're aggressive from like, say, Catherine, Lance, maybe Grace might have a chance at stealing a bit, but you're right, it was a bit of a suicide mission. We saw something similar in an earlier game. I believe it was the game that Renegades played in.
The first game.
Yeah, and the Arden that went up against them went on his own, and there isn't really much you can do if your team's not there. So it's better to, rather than give that away, you'd have the chance to defend your base after that. But I think overall, as I mentioned prior, Apple Esports just played that well. It is so deserving to win that because they were so close in the first game, but Boom Esports really punished them on the Black Claw push. So some really great matches today. I mean, Renegades, Impunity, still unbeaten, 2-0, but that last match of the day, definitely my favorite.
Yeah, so thank you for the rundown of the results. Sure, that really was fantastic day of games, but we have got another day of games tomorrow. There's going to be another round of show matches. Maybe we're going to see someone take a game off Renegades or off Impunity. I'm really excited to see what is going to be going for you tomorrow. Thank you everybody for watching. As I said, that is it for the stream, and I will see you tomorrow.
The time of the Summer Queens is past. The time of the Star Queens has not yet come. Against the coming churn storm, there can only be a Storm Queen. And yet, they come with technology and terror, with shields and armor, blades and bows, magic arcane and unholy, with the power of lightning and even of stars to take my dragon. When the churn swallows their homes, then they will kneel!